Uh, we are using the multi-vendor CPE, and the CPE is not compatible. So one thing is compatible and interoperability. So any operator wants to be seamless transition to the IPv6 because the whatever is the service providing, that is stable in this IPv4. Once we migrate to the IPv6, so we want seamless migration, and that won't be possible due to the multi-vendor CPE that not supports the IPv6 equally. Apart from that, also there is, yes, IPv6 is effective because the routing table size will be less. It's a better security, improved performance, even though we can say there is no any business incentives. So telco or other operators don't feel any new business using this, but so they are their we can say priority is other business. Okay. They not feel. So business is one of the also major things. And another things, as a telco, we think the cost and complication. So because we are using the traditional equipment and migration to new, we cannot replace in one day all the equipments. But what telecom do right now, we have started, we have formed the team 1.5 months before we have formed the team, and all the new CPE, in whatever we have purchased, the new CPE that supports IPv6. So just we have started our BNG core, everything is ready for the IPv6. So we are running in the dual stack mode. So in all the new CPE that's already started, but new CPE just started 1 month before we started selling. So once that will, and gradually, definitely we migrate a mobile network also. We are facing the same issue, but the new technology, once we introduce in the telecom, that will be compatible with the IPv6. And from the day one, we can start to IPv6. Okay. So that will make the future.
Thank you, Vimlesh sir. Maybe this discussion is a bit long. That's why from these short discussions, we all audiences know that the issues for ISPs and telcos. So I think let's open the questions, a few questions from the audiences. Yeah. Could you please someone else help providing the mic? So let's welcome a few questions, then again come back to the further discussion.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shaun Shrestha. I'm from World Food Program as a head of unit. So I would like to just focus to the point what our Warren just mentioned. Like, look at our neighboring countries and why it is actually taking time for us, Nepal, to shift into the IPv6. The question I would like to ask, there are 2 points I would like to actually highlight. That what value is it going to give to the service provider as well as the customers while migrating to IPv6? So if we are comparing this to India, the Geo network, right? For those who are already starting from like a 2G to 3G to 4G, there are costs. There are costs, and there are also recurring costs like CapEx, what we are mentioned, the CapEx and OpEx already there. So, it's for existing service provider, it is the cost of money that they have already invested and trying to getting benefit, recovering it, as well as for new service provider. It's always easy, like for Geo. It just implemented from top, started from top and simply wiped everyone. It's a disruption. So we have to really think about it. Definitely new things there are so many new things, and there are disruptions, technologies. For example, we are just discussing here. I am providing my colleague for the visa training, so that actually we can provide most of the disaster related activities, and we are capable. So there are a lot of investment going on. You need a certified visa for actually to take care of all those things. But certainly there are new technology coming, Starlink. In 10 minutes, you simply start up whatever you want. So what happens to the investment So my question to the forum is that, definitely we try to encourage new technology, but how do we cope up with these disruptions? How do we cope up with the change? And while, taking the steps toward new technology, new movement, how do we actually, look into the value delivery? What kind of value delivery does it gives to the consumer as well as the service provider and all the investors? Over to you.
So
Thank you.
you mean you don't have any specific persons to ask, right? Okay. Then I think the to answer your questions, I think B. Warren is the proper person, right? Do you have any opinions on his questions, please?
So you're correct in your observation about greenfield deployments, a brand new network. It's easy. They can go straight IPv6 if they want. Whereas if you're an existing network and you've already made that investment, it's difficult because you need to think about, will I have to cut my losses or am I going to get the return on the investment? Now, if you think about it though, most organizations have a finite resource of IPv4. IPv4 now has become a commodity, which is a problem. It's a market in its own right. So you are spending thousands, millions of dollars to get public address space for your customers. So therefore the benefit to the customer to go to IPv6 only is going to be, they've got millions of addresses that they can use. Disadvantage is that there are still resources that are running on IPv4. So think about it like this. If you think about 100 years ago, electricity was not very popular in households. Everything was coal-based or they were using fire to light the house. There was no reason for you to go and get electricity. But look now, electricity is everywhere. It's unusual to just have fire. So with IPv6, if I had my way, could wave a magic wand, I would get rid of IPv4 today. We could do a DNS cutover day like what we did a few decades ago and do an IPv6 cutover day. So everyone should go over to that. Now, from a customer's point of view, someone's mentioned that there's better security, there's better performance, but it comes back to if all the underlying technology works. So not necessarily the changes there. The confusion is that academia is still teaching the networks engineers about IPv4. So there needs to be a drive from the academia, from one part of the area, and then also from the government. There's some countries now that have given a deadline to the ISPs to all be running IPv6, and they're close.
Yeah, okay. Next questions, please.
Good afternoon to everyone. I am Saligram Parazali from Nepal Telecom. Actually, just I want to keep my query. Anybody can share. Now, in today's time, it seems that IPv6 deployment basically very popularly focused on network part. And then it's still in operational side. When we go on the operational side, still some DNS zones, they are only solved by IPv4 authoritative, that is servers. So I think unless and until we prepare in both sides, I think migration to IPv6 would be iterative task. We have to do the same tasks in two different sites iteratively. So as an expert platform, what might be the amicable solution for the country like Nepal, where there are still lagging some sorts of human resource, expertise, human resource, and all these things. So what might be the amicable intermediate solution so that both parts can be migrated to IPv6 at the same time? Thank you.
Okay, I think your concern is like a server and networking path. We have like routing and network IPv6 configurations, and another one is like DNS server configuration, because most of the cases servers are not supposed to be ready with IPv6. So in this context, what is the experience from the Worldlink side, Rajuji?
Yeah, thank you.
What you, based on your experience, because we know that Worldlink is almost 79% adaptations. That means you can answer, I think.
Yeah, okay, thank you for the question. So only thing that I would like to reiterate again is you need to first learn the entire protocol, at least in your lab. Yeah, at least because you cannot impact the service of your customer just by doing some sort of R&D over there. So you need to set up a lab. You need to rigorously learn all the aspects. You need to set up your own DNS server on V6, which are authoritative for replying the queries. So after that one, you need to learn the behavior of your CP that is ultimately going to reside at your customer home. Means how they are behaving. So you need to learn about their entire packet flow, how exactly the DHCP V6 is going to work. So once you learn that, what is IANA, what is IAPD that actually serves the addressing for your customer at home. So without learning all these aspects, IPv6 is not easy as DHCP v4. Yeah, it's because I already stated that DHCP v4 was quite easier. Yeah, we never got any sort of trouble in IPv4, but IPv6 is a little bit complex to understand. But once we have that flow, so it becomes very easier for us, because my colleagues, they already stated that the routing table becomes more compact, means your router will have a very condensed routing table, and it is more faster. Yeah, because the designers had already cut off the lots of unwanted fields from IPv6 headers. So one point is this routing table and processing routing routes will become more efficient. And next thing is that there is no option of adopting IPv6. Yeah, so IPv4 we are just paying for getting some block from other operator. So while IPv6, we can easily get it free. So once the content provider, yeah, they are already on IPv6. They are running IPv4 for just to keep the existing subscriber who are not able to get the IPv6. For that sake, it is there. So if still this will go for many more years to come, but we, the operator, actually, what we need to do is collaborate. Yeah, like we are in this seminar, we are sharing our ideas. The more we share our ideas, the more for the learner, it will become more easier, because I had already reiterated that entirely two different vendors. We were using some different vendor at core side and some different vendor for CP. So I will literally will say that for around 6 or 8 months, we had daily round of discussion going with them while we encountered with a very weird issues, because at that time, even we were not sure of how this protocol is misbehaving. So this is what we learned it from, because once the problem hit at our core side, then it was service impacting. So for this, at least what we need to do is we need to set up some sort of lab. At least we can move our internal customers, yeah, our staffs, at least to the IPv6. So after doing that one, you will have some sort of ideas that how this protocol is exactly going to behave. You will need to study how your BNZs are going to react. You need to study how your CPEs are going to react. And next thing, with IPv6, there are challenges. Like earlier, someone from Nepal police, he was raising the concern about keeping the logs. And in today's time, you have a randomized MAC in your mobile. Yeah, every time it changes the MAC address. So how this little CP is going to keep track of all those things for whoever is getting a new IP address? Yeah, something that we also need to build some sort of mechanism in logging as well. So this is how you need to search different aspects first in your lab. Then once we are able to migrate those internal customer into IPv6, then you can try with.
Okay,
chunk of
thank you,
users.
Rajji. Mostly I request panelists also to reduce the answering time because we are
Sorry for
time.
that.
Let's confine to 1 minute time for answering and then to have a short and sweet questions from the audience side. Okay, next one.
Hello, I'm Resam Badarpon from Budal Power Company. So my question is that does that IPv6 that, so I have heard from long time back, still the issue is the same. So is it only related to the only ISP or the networking level, or just like our company, just a corporate company where only the 200 users or the devices are there only? I think where we don't have to care about the IPv6 because it is work only within the C-class private network. That's enough, right? Okay. So when we'll realize that we have to also the customer and should we go to the IPv6, though it's working fine within the IP class C private network. So that's the question.
Okay, your concern is like customer awareness and the somehow concern with the customer side, because if there is no concern from the customer side, definitely it may lack. This concern is like maybe let's Indraji, do you have, or okay, Bimalesh.
Okay, so IPv6 adoption basically currently depends on the ISP. What ISP is giving you IP address, you are in the private network, so your all the request is processed by the ISP. So once the ISP, definitely IPv4 is exhausted, there is no more IP address in the IPv4 address. So definitely any new ISP come, they have to start from the beginning IPv6. So they don't, suppose they don't have the IPv4, in that case, you have to implement the IPv6 and your ISP will take care of that. So your network will be under the ISP. So all the care will be taken by your ISP. Currently, the ISP have the IPv4, so it's not necessary your IPv4. But in the beginning, ISP starts from the dual stack IPv4 and IPv6. Once all the requests, all the content and everything settled on the IPv6, and then partially they can remove the IPv4.
Okay, Bimal sir, I think, yeah.
So thank you for mic. Actually, every enterprise customer must implement IPv6 because content, most of the content going to be hosted in IPv6 environment. One thing. Another thing is now in this era, internet is necessity. It is not the thing of entertainment for every business house, and we need redundancy. Okay, so every customer means every enterprise need to have their own network. For that, they need IP. At least either that will be IPv4 or IPv6. That is not the problem. But the problem is that the regulatory, who is for us, it is ethnic. Ethnic do not provide you the IPv4 address at current situations because they don't have. That is the thing. That's why for redundancy purpose also every enterprise must implement the IPv6 with redundant environment or redundant architecture.
Okay.
I think.
Okay, this is the compulsion for ISPs to implement, but from the customer side, it is almost
because
not
I
concerning,
again
right?
want to focus. If your internet is going to network is going to isolate for 1 hour, you will have lots of losses on the business. So to save that, you need to implement IPv6. Thank you.
Okay, please.
Just a quick comment. You control your network, so you can deploy what you want on there. That's the problem with enterprises. So it's fine to do IPv4 on your network, but your upstream communication will most likely be IPv6. And if they turn off IPv4, then you need to have some sort of translation process. But there's nothing stopping you from running straight IPv4. The other thing is, if you're running a Windows environment, you're probably running IPv6 anyway today. It's running there on a linked local address if you haven't already turned it off.
Okay, I think we have just 5 minutes left now. maybe we are in the stage of wrapping up. Before concluding that, maybe let's think from the kind of like a migrations plan roadmap. Like we know that many countries, including India had IPv6 migrant roadmap on 2003 and then updated on 2005 and implementing. So similarly, there are so many countries who have planned, deployed, implemented, monitored, regulated. But in the context of Nepal, so far I have none. Somehow migrations plan have been studied, but from the regulatory side, it has not yet been enforced for the kind of like regulated roadmap implementations and migration monitoring. So in this context, just we want to know from the ethnic side that what should the developing countries like Nepal should have the government go for regulations and then deploy, I mean, implement some kinds of plan so that the operators should move on with this, or should it help for the speedy migrations? Just a 1 minute, you just
Yeah,
give your opinion.
That's a hard one. I don't know if regulation will help. I've seen countries where the government has regulated that it needs to be done by this date, and the ISPs will do the tick and flick, but they haven't really deployed it. They're able to demonstrate that they've got IPv6 running, but it's not fully deployed. So regulation is not a good way of going.
Maybe let's have a just one sentence answer from the other panelists that on the same concerns. Like, what do we expect from the regulator in the context of Nepal, not only concerning with IPv6 migration, because we know that in the future software-defined network kind of like is also coming on. Other different technologies, we talk about that. We mean we have to have a multi-technology migrations of your current network into the next generation or future generation network. What you expect from the regulatory side? Just a one-line answer. Let's expect from Rajuji. Okay.
So more than regulator, we operators should take the responsibility. We should learn how to test more and more into our labs, because until you have that kind of expertise, then without that one, you cannot go to the regulatory asking for something, because what we feel is you need to be very, very technically sound on all these migrations, because nobody is coming to your organization and teaching how that you should migrate these all things, because you need to experiment. You need to experiment within your lab, at least within your internal clients. Because we learn this by doing that one. So regulations, after we collaborate and after we will discover some sort of challenge, then we can go to such forum and tell them. Like I already raised the concern that with IPv6, there is already a set of challenge, because one iPhone literally takes 3 or 4 different addresses from IPv6. How you will handle those kind of situation for logging? And I already emphasized over a randomized MAC. Yeah, these all things we need to put together. Yeah, and we need to be very much prepared about these all things. So more than regulator, it's us that we need to feel, we need to find out those flaws and just share within this type of seminars and work groups.
We got it. We got it. Let's come to Rameshji. Just a few seconds.
Thank
One
you.
line.
Thank you. I think if regulatory set a target to implement IPv6 within a year, I think that will also help to identify and keep more secure in internet browsing history. I think it also helps to identify if there is any cyber crime, because we can easily find any crime that will be within IPv6.
Okay.
That is more easy to identify. मलाई लाग्छ यदि IPv6 चाहिँ fully implement भयो भने त्यो cyber security को जुन कुरा
Yeah, that's the benefit. Yeah.
that will also be good.
Okay. Let's move on to Bimlesh. Yeah, sir. के छ अब? From the government incumbent operator side.
मैले एक शब्दमै भने अब operator को network अब different type को operator को network छ सबैको कसैको नयाँ network मा it is very easy to implement, but the operator, traditional operator, they have the multi-vendor equipment, multi-vendor device. So, and I think the benefit, IPv6 deployment benefit को एङ्गलबाट हेर्दाखेरि अब अपरेटरले त्यसरी गर्दै त नहुने, तर बिस्तारै बिस्तारै I think it is inevitable.
Yeah.
IPv6 is inevitable. So as the Raju says, because by doing, we have to implement. So learning by doing, accordingly, I think within 5 to 10 years, migration
okay.
will be completed.
Okay, Indrajit, do you want to add anything more?
Complete migration, yeah, IPv6. Within 5 to 10 years in Nepal.
Okay, thank you. I think regulate I don't want to add anything from regulatory perspective, but rather than expecting something from regulatory, I think we need to focus ourselves, and we need to create the value of IPv6. Why IPv6 is really needed. So we need to know the value of it, and that's why we'll get motivated to implement it. Actually, there are multiple things that they are doable, and that gives the value to enterprise, that gives the value to provider. If we know the value, we automatically go
Okay,
on the
okay.
way.
I mean,
That's all.
we got
Thank
you because.
And last thing, I want to add another point, that is content. So we are talking the content. So simply we remember content means Google, Facebook, Akamai, or something other. But don't forget to implement IPv6 on your website. Okay. Don't
Okay.
forget to implement IPv6 on your DNS. So these are the basic things we need to start from 0 hour from today itself.
Thank you.
So
Indra.
thanks.
Yeah,
Let's focus.
Our time is almost running out now. So the concern is like, from the regulatory side, what I mean, like we need to have something encouragement because of the cost. There might be heavy cost, and maybe we need some subsidies on the equipment import, maybe tax exemptions, something maybe there. But I don't know, this is a part of country's regulations and policies. Anyway, thank you very much for these short discussions and highlighting the issues, current status. I would like to thank first the Warren Fins from npNOG8, Raju from the WorldLink, then Bimalesh Daswar from NTC, Ramesh Kafle from FirstLink, and then Indrajit from Subisu CableNet. So mostly the concern is like our backbone network and almost other infrastructure ready, but still we are reluctant with the CPE because of multi-vendor CPE raise the issues of proper implementations. Another side is IPv6 implementation is mostly on the ISP's concern or network or service providers concern, respective of the customer side, because this is a backbone part. That means through that infrastructures we provide the services. That's why customer must be concerned with the services. So this is, I think, the concerns of definitely countries, regulators, then operators. The first is it comes to operators who have to have more concerns and the resource development, test, experiment, and then monitoring part. So I would like to thank you all panelists and all audiences for this fruitful and nice discussions and to know all about the deployment status and issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, our esteemed panelists, for joining us today. We look forward to an engaging discussion on accelerating IPv6 adoption in Nepal. Our next speaker is Mr. Vijay Limbu Singhaing, the CEO of Bhairav Technology Security Private Limited. He will be shedding light on the topic demystifying APT group targeting telecom and ISPs. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Vijay in this stage.
Hello. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my immense pleasure to be here to present the paper on demystifying APT groups targeting telecoms and ISPs of Nepal. So I'm Vijay Limbu Senyang, currently working as a Chief Executive Officer at Bhairav Technology, which is a cybersecurity company providing cybersecurity operations center services here in Nepal. So with 12 years of experience in cybersecurity domain, and also as in working as in core team members of a validations testing company from Austin, Texas called Secure IQ Lab. So today paper's agenda revolves around the topic of advanced persistent threats, and it's all about the tactics and techniques of the APTs that has been used previously in attacking telecoms and ISPs of Nepal. Right. So before we move on to the main topic, right? So first, these are the top cyber threats of ISPs and telecom that I could list out, right? So it's the first one is the distributed denial of service. Second one is supply chain attacks. Third one is insider threats. Fourth one is advanced persistent threats. Fifth, DNS attacks. Six, SS7 and diameter signaling threats. Seven, phishing and social engineering attacks. 8, malware and ransomware attack. 9, network infrastructure exploitations. And the last one is the physical security breaches. So why advanced persistent threats? Right. So if you just Google and just look at the history of all the APTs group targets, and right, so there are so many news there regarding the targeted APTs attack, right? Targeting the Asian telecom, right? Brazilian telecom, right? And even the US telecoms, right? So there are so many news coming up there, but from the telecom and ISP perspective, right, we need to understand what actually is the advanced persistent threat, right? So from the definition perspective, right, it's It's highly sophisticated and prolonged cyber attacks with an intruder clandestine established and maintains an undetected presence within the targeted network with the objective of exfiltrating sensitive data over an extended duration. So, right, so before we go through the actual tactics and technique, right, so we need to understand the key characteristics of the APT groups, right? So they implement the most advanced technique to exploit the system, right? They are more persistent, right? They like to remain in the network, right, for the longer period of time, right? They have a very specific target approach with the principle of the covert operations, and ultimately they are more motivated and well-resourced, right? So well-resourced means most of the APT groups are nation state sponsored. So why they target the ISPs and telecom as a prime target? Because we all know the infrastructure backbone of a country is an ISP and a telecom, right? And they want to utilize that as a weapon. And ISPs and telecoms are the most valuable target for any state-sponsored attack, any cyber criminal groups, right? Because they love to gather the intelligence, right? And also, they love ISPs and telecom because one of the factor from the national security perspective is that the ISPs and telecom is the weakest link in warfare, because that could be used as in propaganda and disinformation. And also, if any country has to sabotage national security, then they basically can sabotage the ISPs and telecom network infrastructure. So, right, so there are nearly 25 APT groups worldwide who are basically involved for targeting ISPs and telecom, right? So I have listed down all the APT groups, right? There are more than, I think, 250 APT groups worldwide. Out of that, 25 are specifically targeting telecom and ISPs all over the world, right? It's from APT 19, 30, 32, 39, 41, right? They have a very pretty interesting and weird name too. Aquatic Panda, Backdoor Diplomacy, Platinum, right? Equine Dragon, Trip, Oil Rig, Muddy Water, Mirador, Mushate, Lapsus, Winter Vivan, right? Hexen, Galileum, Oth Luxa, Deep Panda, Mustang Panda, Fox Kiran, Red Fox Trot, AVD 35, and the last one is the Sidewinder, right? So there are almost 25 APT groups right now who are targeting ISPs and telecom all over the world, right? So maybe from the Nepal perspective, right? So we might be looking who could be the APT groups that are targeting our infrastructures, right? So everybody wants to know that, because from the operator, network operators and the telecom operator, right? We need to understand how we can defend from this kind of APT groups. So first thing, we need to understand who are those APT groups. So there are currently 3 APT groups right now who are targeting our infrastructures, especially Nepal infrastructures of telecom operators and network operators. I'll go with first one is the Oth Luxa. So Oth Luxa is suspected Chinese-based cyber espionage group, right? That has been active since 2019 and has been targeting not only Nepal, it's targeting Australia, China, Hong Kong, Mongolia, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, UAE, Nigeria, Germany, France, and the United States. They have also other allies, right? Like TAC-22, Fishmaster, Space Mongi. And from Nepal perspective, this group has targeted in the previous, right? Not right now, in the previous year, in 2021, they targeted Nepal Telecom, right? So why they targeted Nepal Telecom? To extract the critical informations from the Nepal Telecom, right? So how they extracted the informations, right? So basically, these are the tactics and techniques that they use, right? From the tactics perspective, they first do the reconnaissance through vulnerability scanning, then they go into the network through initial access through drive-by compromise, exploiting public-facing applications, and spear phishing. And from the execution perspective, they use JavaScript, PowerShells, and Python-based tools. And for the persistence, they utilize techniques such as SSH authorizations key, print processors, Windows service. And for the privilege escalations, they use bypass, they used to do the bypass of the user account control. And from the evasion perspective, they do the DLL site loading. And from the credential access, right, they basically dumps all the OS credentials from LSS memory and DSSync. And also they do the discovery of the internal network, right, through domain trust discovery, system network discovery, system service discovery. And for the command and control, right, they use proxy, and ultimately they exfiltrate the data through the web service. And there is another group which is suspected based from Vietnam, right? They are active since 2014 and has been not only targeting the telecoms, but also other private organizations all over the world, right? Their target organizations are very highly profile, right? So high profile, and also high profile individuals are also targeted by this group, right? So they are also known as APD32, Ocean Buffalo, Tin Woodlaw, right? So, and these particular Ocean Lotus organizations, previously they targeted Nepal Telecom and Warlink, right? So from the TTP's perspective, right? So most of the APD groups has the same kind of reconnaissance, but same kind of tactics, but they use different techniques. For here, they use gather victim informations as a technique in reconnaissance. For the initial access, right, they used some valid accounts, spear phishings, and drive-by compromise. And I would like to mention the importance of the valid accounts, right? Most of the APD groups, they are collecting the genuine system admin credentials from the dark web, right? Most of the system admin PCs are compromised through stealer malware, right? I think the mostly infected PCs is, I think it's through the red line stealer malware, right? So that's why I think if you go and just go and find in the dark web, right? There are so many system admin credentials in the dark web, which is easily for sale. So through that, they go into the network, right? They use different kind of executions techniques, like command scripting interpreter, malicious file, malicious link, right? And they maintain within organizations through modifying the register run keys, right? Changing the startup folders, using the default native Windows API services. And also for the escalations perspective, this particular APT group, Ocean Lotus, actually exploit the vulnerability of Windows operating system, and also they do the process injections. And also from the evasion perspective, right, they basically hide all their artifacts, right? They basically modify the registry, and also use the obfuscated files and information systems, and also sometimes they use the binary proxy executions, right? And lastly, they capture all the operating system credentials. And right, the same discovery technique, the same right lateral movement technique, right? And especially in lateral movement technique, they are very smart, right? They are using some genuine software here, right? Like software like Anydex, TeamViewer, right? They are using those kind of software for the lateral movement, right? And even this SMB protocol, they are also using the SMB protocols. And they basically collect the archived data from the organizations. And from the command and control perspective, right, they use the application layer protocol. Some are using the non-standard port, and also the web services like port 480 and 443 services are also used for the command and control. And from the exfiltration process, right, they are using the command and control channel, right? So like basically they use tools like Cobalt Strike, Metasploit, and other enterprise command and control software to exfiltrate the data from the organizations. And the last one is the Sidewinder, which is an APT group suspected based from India. which is targeting our organizations since 2012. And this is the APT groups that I've been chasing since 2019, right? I have been trying to get all the footprints, right? And I was also involved in one of the high profile cases for this Sidewinder. And this is really, really sophisticated, right? It has targeted not only ISPs and telecom of Nepal, has also targeted most of the security agency and government sector of our country, right? So from the telecom perspective, it has targeted Nepal Telecom, Ncell, Worldlink, and Subisu. So Sidewinder, I have seen their journey, right? They were very noob at the beginning, right? I think in 2012, they were very noob, but now in 2023, they are mostly sophisticated, right? They are considered as in one of the most sophisticated APD groups from India. With basically they love to do phishing, right? I have seen so many phishing email coming from this APD groups, right? They use the phishing as an reconnaissance, right? They use the initial access tactics and using the spear phishing techniques, right? They use so many spear phishing technique, right? Sometimes they use the email spoofing technique as an techniques, right? And executions, persistence. Same thing is used here, just like the other APT groups. The only thing that I could see here is the exfiltrations, right? They has the tools that can automatically exfiltrate the data from the organizations, right? They basically modify the script to exfiltrate all the critical informations from the organizations through automated process. All right, so now, right, from the tactics perspective, we know what are the tactics these APT groups are using, right? So from the detections perspective, right? So let's go through the reconnaissance process, right? So reconnaissance process, basically from the detections perspective, we need to identify our all vulnerabilities, right? We have to know our sports and services that are open in the public infrastructures, right, which are not needed. We should definitely close that, right? We should continue the network traffic monitoring, deep and dark web monitoring, source code leakage monitoring, right? We have to prevent email spoofing. That's one of the way to prevent that. And also, so we have to deploy honeypots and honeynets to identify the adversary footprints before they attack into our organizations, right? Into the telco and ISPs, and also implementations of WAF and monitoring the log, right? From the initial access perspective, right? So basically we have to deploy EDR to detect encoded PowerShell commands, right? To detect anomaly process, establish baselines of normal behavior. And also we need to look for we have to look closely for these external remote services like port 21, 22, 23, 3389, 5900, 5938, right? 6568. These are these remote services these particular APT groups are using. And also from the phishing perspective, right, we have to look for those attachments like HTM, XLM, docm, .lnk, 1.1.js. These are the attachment that these APT groups are sending as in malicious from the malicious purpose, right? And also we have to look for the unauthorized VPN and VDI access, right? This is where they get into the infrastructures of the telco and ISPs. And from the executions perspective, right, we have to monitor the Windows security event like 200, 400, 800, 410. And also we have to detect the malicious PowerShells, right? Spawning techniques and obfuscations technique, right? The uses of the remote PowerShell for the executions. And also from the persistence perspective, right? We have to check the login script, right? And also from the DLL site loading perspective, we have to identify all the site loading footprints that are left by the APT groups while side loading the actual software DLL, right? So we have to check for that particular footprints. And from the privilege escalations perspective, right? So we have to look for the event ID 4672 for abuse evaluations control mechanisms. We have to look for the event ID 4673 for the access token manipulations. We have to look for the event ID 566 for the domain exploit modifications. And also, right, so we have to identify the exploitations traffic for the privilege escalations. And for the defense evasion, right, so process injections, and we have to also identify the uses of genuine software in the server where we don't know, right? So we have to baseline all the software, and we have to identify whether there is an unauthorized uses of the genuine software. And also we have to identify and detect the process howling. So from the lateral movement, right? So there are two basic techniques that are used by the APT groups. One is the pass the hash and one is the pass the ticket. So these are the basic attack methods used for the lateral movement of from one computer to another computer through the exploitations of the domain controller, right? So we have to look for the 4624 for the pass the hash event, and for the pass the ticket, we have to look for the 4624. And if you are using Sysmon as an security monitoring, right, then you have to look for the Sysmon ID 10 for the LSS process access. And command and control, definitely we have to look for the beacon traffic, right? So that's how the command and control get connected with the exploited or compromised user PCs. And from the exfiltrations, right, check all the last file transfer, suspicious activity of the Google Drive, OneDrive, and also the detections of the DNS tunneling, those DNS traffic who are using the DZA domain, right? So these are the techniques that we can use, right? So at the end, I would say that, right, we need to have the cyber defense strategy. We need to have a robust threat intelligence program, so robust network security monitoring analysis program, endpoint protection program, vulnerability assessment and patch management, breach and attack simulations, right? Vendor and supply chain security, continuous monitoring and threat hunting with the incident response and recovery with user awareness and training. So you can't defend, you can't prevent. The only thing you can do is to detect and respond by Bruce Steiner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Limbu, for the insightful presentation on APT Group targeting the telecom and ISP industry. Now we have a special session where Ms. Himali Bhatta, a system engineer from Access World Tech Private Limited, will share her npNOG fellowship experience. Please welcome Ms. Himali in this stage.
Hello, everyone. I am Himali Bhatta. So sharing briefly about me, I started as an implementation engineer at Leeds Innovation, which works on project basis. And currently I'm working at Access World Tech Private Limited. So starting off with my presentation. Okay, so today I will be presenting about my experiences in the NOG. So previously, my NOG journey started from this January with the npNOG8, which was held in Pokhara. And then I was also selected for a SANOG fellowship, which was in last May in Bangladesh, Dhaka. So thank you so much to the fellowship committee, and especially Rupesh Bhaktashrestha sir, for giving me this opportunity for the fellowship, and also for speaking and sharing my experiences here today. So, okay, I'm waiting for my presentation. Okay, so I will be speaking without that. Okay, so starting off with npNOG8, I chose the system administration track there. So I would like to thank the instructors, Rupesh sir and then Chatur sir from PCH, And then similarly, after that, the learnings that I did there was regarding the let's encrypt and using the passwordless SSH. And there I was also introduced to containerization and using the Git for version control. And then after that, since with the time constraint, I'm moving a bit faster, so apologies for that. So now, yes, I also learned about the DNS tree hierarchy in detail. And then obviously the efficient use of text editors, which helped me because I need to work with Linux servers for my client while providing support. So that really efficiently helped me in the efficient use of the editors. And moving on to the next slide. Yeah, so these are some of the memories and the group pictures of everyone in there. And after this, yeah, the SANOG 39, which was held in Dhaka, and that was also npNOG 16. So basically, I think all of us present in here know about the SANOG. So it's South Asian countries network operators group, just like npNOG, it's of Nepal. So the South Asian countries network operators come together and discuss for further development and share their insights with one another. And it was held from 9th May till 13th May. It was hosted by ISPAB. And then, yeah, I had chosen network automation track in there. So I would like to convey my regards to Anurag Bhatia from Hurricane Electric, and then Rupesh Basnet from Om Networks, who is also an instructor here in npNOG. And then Shaila Sharmin from Prime Bank, who was from Dhaka. So the learnings that I did there are in the next slide. Yeah, so there I learned about containerization in detail, and then the reverse proxy, coming up with Ansible and using the CI/CD pipeline. And with this, I have created my lab back in my office, in my test servers, to implement the learning and get my hands on before implementing that in the production environment, as we previously also know about that from our panel discussion, that we should test in our lab first. So yeah, these are the Docker. So I used Docker containerization technology for deploying the containers in my network. So these are the private servers that I deployed in my network. I also deployed the SmokePing and then Zabbix. I'm currently working on deploying and integrating the devices of my organization into Zabbix. So I did that with the help of containers. And also I learned about the VS Code. So it's from where I can use it as an efficient text editor for my codes. It also helps with the indentation and also in minimizing the errors that we often get from the Linux text editors. So after that, yes, and I also use the Ansible. So basically creating playbooks in YAML, and Ansible has an inventory file where we define the remote hosts on which we have to run the commands. So it uses SSH protocol to connect to the remote host, and it has an Ansible. So I deployed an Ubuntu server where I installed Ansible, and that's my control host. So the remote hosts are defined in the inventory file, and then I have done some basic things in the Ubuntu server, like creating a directory remotely or creating a user also. So moving on to the next slide, another thing is reverse proxy. So that was already implemented in my organization. So I just tested it in my lab to see how it really works. So which is not that difficult as well. And these are the containers that I brought up using Docker. So that's the Zabbix, and I have integrated my test server in there. And I'm not showing the production one in here because of the confidentiality issues. So moving on to the next slide. Yeah, so these are the memories that I collected in there. So yes, obviously not to mention my fellows, so who were really humble and genuine, kind persons. So it was really an insightful journey for me, actually, just like npNOG, and even more better, as it was an international exposure for me, and not just about technicality, because we technical people usually tend to be kind of introverts. So I think it's a great platform. NOGs are really great platform to bring out and just connect with people, not just with the technology is being all day. So I think it's a great opportunity, and I'm really grateful to have this opportunity, actually, and also to share my experience today in front of you all. So moving on to the next slide. Yeah, so these are the fellows. So the fellows from Bangladesh were also kind enough for giving us a token of love and also for roaming around the city. So and also, yeah, so that's our sponsor, Renee from Flex Optics, with whom we had a very great session and like sharing our insights of what our future perspectives are. So it was really wonderful to have a conversation with him as well. And yes, obviously, for the wonderful opportunity that I am bestowed with, I would like to express my sincere gratitudes to entire npNOG community, from the fellowship and organization, everything, and SANOG Fellowship Committee, npNOG sponsors, Kijush Maharjan sir, regarding the sponsorship, I guess, and then fellowship sponsors, yes, as I mentioned previously, Flex Optics to be precise, and then SANOG host, ISPAB, bdNOG, and entire APNIC Foundation, especially Rupesh Bhaktashrestha sir. Okay, so that is it about my presentation. Since I have a few minutes left, regarding my experience, I would like to share something with you all, with all the aspiring network or system engineers and the internet operators that are present in this hall. So yes, as I mentioned previously regarding the labs, so whatever testing and system requirements of our customers is, I first tested in the lab. So I use EveNG for that purpose, and that has really helped me minimize the errors and also expand my skill set actually. And apart from that, I also have signed up as a member of APNIC Academy. So you can also be a member of APNIC Academy, and they really provide very lengthy and very detailed trainings and workshops in APNIC Academy. So that is it. Keep learning. Since we are in the technology field, it keeps on evolving. So we really need to catch up with the technology to exist in this field. So I would like to, I like to learn everything that comes in my way. So that is it. Thank you for this. And I would like to end my presentation with a little quote. I would like to tweak it a little by William Shakespeare. It's be a jack of all, but master of one. I repeat, one. Thank you.
Thank you, Himali, for sharing your wonderful experience as a fellow. I would like to, this is the last presentation for this session. So we will have 5-minute tea break. I would like to request all the participants to grab your coffee and come back to this conference room, and we will continue the session. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think we should be getting started. So welcome all to this final closing plenary. We have very interesting session coming up. So we have some very good presentations lined up in this session, as well as panel discussion and some sponsors recognition program as well. So we'll start with, without losing any time, we'll start with the presentation challenges in optical fiber network deployment by Dr. Saligram Parazuli, HOD Network and Provinces, Nepal Telecom. Saligram sir, if you can come up in the slides and do your presentation, please. Thank you, sir.
स्टार्ट करो के छ रुपेश सर सुरु गरौँ ओके गुड आफ्टरनुन टु ऑल distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I think during these whole session, you discussed on very big things, 4G, 5G, data centers, cloud, and all these things, security, etc. But today, now I'm going to talk on a very small things. I think sometimes we categorize as a blue collar job to maintain the network. It might be the underground work or the work related to the pole towers and all these things. So I think in my presentation, there would have very minute issues, small issues, but I would like to assure that these are very important and parts and parcel to maintain the telecommunication network very smoothly for the good quality of service. So I would like to start my presentation. I'm going to present I want to point some issues. I want to share the experience. I'm not going to present anything here. I want to point issues and take your experience and feedbacks, and we'll discuss. Issues on optical network deployment, infrastructure deployment in Nepal. We know that the whole world is in the fingertip, but it all based on the foundation of telecommunication or ICT network, which should be very sustainable and reliable. We know that the technology is being changed day by day. And today, it is said that we know that there is no difficult bigger than that to be changed ourselves. भनिन्छ संसारमा सबैभन्दा ठुलो चुनौती भनेको challenges of change, adaptation. Change adaptation is the big challenge in today's world. हामी कोही पनि change adapt गर्न चाहदैनौँ. But if we don't adapt the change, we do not survive. So in this presentation, I have outlined this content. Here, I want to coin the issues which are facing by the network developers, service providers, day to day. I want to share the experience and ideas which are based on the industry practice. And I want to have global networking with you all professionals. Actually, in the network connectivity, there are different kinds of measures or methods. Sometimes, or in some context, we connect through the satellites. In some context, we are connected through the wireless, 3G, 4G, 5G, and beyond. And in some context, there are the connectivity from the fiber. So actually, what is optical fiber network infrastructure? In the passive goods, there might have optical fiber, there might have cables, poles, connectors, utility trenches, ducts, conduits, vaults, towers, and all these things. But in the active devices, there might have DWDM equipments, router, switches, modems, and all these things. So basically, in a network infrastructure, we deal with the underground optical fiber network, aerial optical fiber network, ADSS optical fiber network, and OPSW optical fiber network. In optical fiber system infrastructure, basically we deal on the network architecture with the 3 layers: core layer, aggregation layer, and access layers. In a core layer, the core routers are implemented. In an aggregation layer, we implement the aggregation routers to forward the traffic from each city in an internal service area. And in the access layer, either switch, routers, or any device which is located in the point of presence of the customer. And why optical fiber network infrastructure? What are the key drivers? Actually, we know that today there is a high demand of triple play and quad play services. This means triple play with mobility. And telcos or ICT service exponentially, the bandwidth hunger business is the day of the today. And then only optical fiber network can provide the modern and reliable network. So guaranteed high bandwidth demand, sustainability and security with the high speed in a longer distance, we have to adopt for the optical fiber network infrastructure. So what are the issues? Actually, day to day, we are facing various kinds of issues in the network deployment. First of all, the right of way. Different right of way premises. Suppose permission from the road department during the deployment of the optical fiber network in underground, it takes a very long time to take the permissions from Department of Road. And there are very complex issues regarding the land ownership. There is a very long bureaucratic process and involvement of the multiple stakeholders. So there is the delay consequences in the network deployment. It is the fact, it is the bitter fact that we are facing. And not only that, the road border, the border of the road, it is not clearly distinct and it is not been boundary wall. Suppose we lay the fiber on the side within the right of way, within some years, there might have private people's activity to cultivate the land and all these things. So the road border, it should be covered. It should be marked to preserve the optical fiber network for the sustainability of the network infrastructure. And then regarding the forest, national wildlife and all these things, there is a very long process of EIA. It's a very complex, time consuming, so that we have some treaties and some policies if we go for the EIA process. There are the hurdles from the treaties. I mean, त्यहाँ बस्ने पिपुललाई कम्युनिकेसन सर्भिस प्रोभाइड गर्न भनेर EIA लिन गयो भने जङ्गलको बाँदरलाई प्रभाव पर्छ भनेर मान्छेहरूको एउटा चाहिँ राइट अफ इन्फर्मेसन चाहिँ माइनोरिटीमा पर्छ। आजको समस्या यस्तो छ। त्यसैले यो प्रोसेसहरूलाई केही सिम्प्लिफाइड गर्नुपर्ने छ। अर्को जियोग्राफिकल टेरेन, the diverse and challenging geographical terrain. Nepal is a mountainous country. So to lay the optical fiber network in the difficult terrain, it is very costlier and the infrastructure is vulnerable. And we have some limited infrastructures, existing infrastructure. Suppose if we want to lay the optical fibers from electricity poles, there are limited infrastructures. Similarly, due to the difficult terrain, the cost of construction is very high. This means the cost of capital expenditure, cost of operational expenditure, the cost is very high during the construction of the optical fiber network. And then similarly, I have already mentioned regarding the right of way, and another issue, another challenge we are facing, that we are lagging the consistent power supply network. Consistent electricity access in the rural area, it's a very important to prepare the optical fiber network throughout the nation. But frequent outage of the power, fluctuation of the power, that directly affect the communication network optical fiber network, and it takes long time for this means long time consumption for the uptime and performance is being degraded. And then there is a lack of coordination and collaboration between the stakeholders. Those stakeholders which are very important by their role, playing on the either policy level or implementation level. But there is a gap. There is no effective coordination among stakeholders between the government stakeholders, telcos, ISPs, and local communities. So we are unable to streamline all the efforts for the better result, for the better resource optimization. So telcos and ISPs are making and running the separate optical fiber network. If we make the separate optical fiber network, then lots of investment on the optical fiber network infrastructure. If we invest on the multi-fold, if the different operators prepare the different network, definitely due to the extreme capex and opex, the ultimate cost is adding on the customer level, subscriber level. So due to the multiple network on the city has become ugly. So the Metropolitan City Administration Office, they are trying to clean the city. And then frequently we are getting the trouble in our network. So there should have a common coordination and collaboration unit to work combinedly among the government stakeholders, telcos, ISPs, and Department of Road, Nepal Electricity Authority, Department of Water Supply, and all these things. See, in today, we see this situation. The ISPs and telco, they provide the service to the customer until and unless Kathmandu Metropolitan City comes and cut the fiber. When they come, they cut the fiber. So just they are seizing the opportunity when it comes. So actually, this is the issue. Now it is our situation that there is a massive destruction of optical network by this dozer culture. And similarly, the metropolitan city and other stakeholders, they are trying to keep the beauty of the city. So in the name of keeping beautification of the city, regularly the optical fiber network is being disturbed. So other additional issues, lack of a skilled workforce. Actually in the market, we need a lot of skilled human resource in telcos and ISP sectors to work on this optical fiber network infrastructure. We need more splicers. We need more technicians for laying the cable and all these things. But we don't have these kinds of skilled human resource. So let's train the human resource. Let's stop them to go Gulf. We can generate lots of opportunity over here, employment over here, because the skilled technicians for optical fiber network, still there is a high demand in the market. So let's train HR for splicing, testing, laying, pulling, and start small scale manufacturing like patch cords, connectors, enclosure, OTB, ODF. What is possible? Let's start making Nepal so that we can preserve our reserve, USD reserve. And then similarly, let's start this network monitoring and quality assurance issue. We have to, there should have a very good mechanism to regular network monitoring and quality assurance. For this, let's make a set of standards, set of standard parameters to maintain the network and to monitor the network so that we can compare with the service providers. And there is a inherent feature in the optical fiber network, this self-healing network. But still, many of the ISPs or operators, they have not been implemented this. If we implement on the ring network, in the optical fiber network, in the mesh network or ring network, if we use this feature, that self-healing network, once a fiber cut in the ring network, the traffic automatically resumes from the alternate path. So let's try to maintain this by all ISPs and operators so that we can deliver the high quality of network without interruption. And there is a very important quotation from APJ Abdul Kalam. He has said that dream is not what you see in sleep. Actually, the dream is that doesn't let you sleep until and unless you achieve it. So let's dream for a very good and high quality optical fiber network. How it is possible? There should have a sustainable infrastructure development. And for the infrastructure sharing, there should have a mechanism. And in infrastructure sharing, there should have a healthy infrastructure sharing mechanism. Similarly, if we share the infrastructure, if we prepare the sustainable infrastructure, then definitely CapEx and OpEx would be reduced, which ultimately saves in our resolve. And ultimately, we can deliver the low-cost service to the customer. If we use the integrated infrastructure, if we share the integrated infrastructure, if we do not expend more and more money in network maintenance with the sustainable infrastructure, definitely we can provide low-cost, affordable service to the customer. It replicates over there in the last users. So government's policies and support must be very strong and in line, streamlined with these world trend as a development for the future-proofing network infrastructures. So today's need is the integrated physical infrastructure planning and implementation department in the government side. Even in India, China, if you go over there, you can see that there is an integrated physical infrastructure development department units which work for the utility trench. Within these utility trends, they pass through each and every services so that we can prepare a robust network, and that robust network can be shared by the all ISPs and telcos and other users. So healthy environment of infrastructure sharing is the need of the day. Separate department for the integrated physical infrastructure planning and implementation is the need of the day, and very good, very harmonious coordination and collaboration is the need of the day, and utility corridor to remove all kinds of these hassles which we are facing day to day. These are the needs of the day. Similarly, in other aspect, we are facing some challenges. The challenges are some technical challenges, some regulatory challenges, and some administrative challenges. I would like to share some issues, point some issues on this area. In Nepal, actually around 75% of the terrain is the hilly area. So due to lack of utility corridor and all these things along the road, due to lack of clear policy and guidelines to use the right of way, due to lack of clear border demarcation of the road, right of way, frequent fiber cut, excavation, pole erection, natural disaster, and sharing of the ROW by the different operators, we are facing these kinds of issues. This is the technical challenge. And then in a regulatory challenge, there is a policy framework and guideline for the deployment and management of optical fiber network, but we don't have. It should be established. It should be marked. And then there should have a healthy infrastructure sharing environment. And then there should have a streamlined and coordinated effort for the maintenance of infrastructures. And in administrative challenges, suppose Nepal Electricity Authority, they are laying the optical fiber network as a optical power through ground wire OPGW. But still, there is a monopoly on OPSW. And then unregulated tariff is over there. Immediately, Nepal Telecom Authority, they have to pay their attention to regulate the tariff. And then there should have the permission of use of ROW, there should have a clear policy, very shortcut and clear policy to use the right of way. And similarly, permission from National Park and Wildlife Conservation. And today, the figure that I have shown over here, Nepalese telcos and ISPs, they are sustaining in these kinds of stone by their own effort without facilitation from oversight agencies, regulatory bodies, ministries, or all. Next. Now, today we are in this stage back. Yeah, we have a lots of infrastructure, but due to lack of coordinated effort to use it, now the person, he is above the hundreds, thousands of ladder, but he is trying to climb the wall. So Nepalese ISPs and telco sector today in this status, in this situation, due to lack of coordinated effort to use existing resources, available resources. There is underutilization of resource or misuse of the resource. So optical fiber network connectivity, it has, I think you know all that ISPs, they have network, NEA, they have OPSW, optical fiber through ground wire system. Nepal Telecom, they have own network, and Ncell, they have their own optical fiber network. So here I want to enter some very less time on this slide. Actually, in the underground network, around 4,000 kilometers underground network, we already have in a backhaul and in a distribution also. Similarly, regarding the NEA, so far I have got the information around 9,000 kilometer OPSW network is over there. In ADSS, around 500 kilometer network over there, and NT, we have around 2,000 kilometer ADSS network over there. And then in case of aggregation, in case of AS, we already have deployed ADSS around 2,200 kilometer, and in underground, we have already deployed around 944, around 1,000 kilometer. Similarly, the access to 72 districts, we have already been over there. In a recent 3 districts, we are going to have a connectivity in this fiscal year, and very soon in remaining 2 districts, we will reach by the end of this fiscal year. So finally, the broadband access network around 20 kilometers to connect community school, BDCs, municipalities, and health post is over there. And RTDF, you all know that in province 1, 2, 3, most of the works, it has already been completed. In province 6 and 7, ADSS also already been completed, but in UG, we have already contract signed and it is on the final survey. Next. Next. So actually, we can skip, just wait. Now, let's take the investment on the infrastructure as a big push theory-based investment policy should be there. In a big push theory-based investment policy, if once we invest in one sector, it may create the multiplier effect. Once you lay the broadband optical fiber network over there, thousands of other business avenues would be open. So let's take optical fiber network deployment project as a big push theory-based investment policy, which may create the synergy effect on that. And then for the target group, suppose we have to connect the Karnali, or anywhere, let's make a separate project and focus on it. Finally, what are the way forwards? Today's need very resilient infrastructure, optical fiber network infrastructure. So integrated physical infrastructure development department should be generated. And we have to start the infrastructure sharing, and the utility corridor is must. We have to start it from planning commission, and policy and guideline for the use of ROW should be immediately implemented. And then NEA is to be integrated at the policy and regulation level for the OPSW leasing and tariff regulation. Similarly, there should have a very coordinated effort between the stakeholders, among the stakeholders for the healthy infrastructure sharing environment, and OFC tariff regulation, new guidelines should be prepared, and it should be demarcated for SPOR and backbone network. And then there should have the provision of utility trains for the communication under the road project, and optical fiber communication network infrastructure development should be in a public-private citizen partnership model, so that the people may feel that it is our network. To create the sense of ownership to the people, the optical fiber network deployment project should be in the public-private citizen partnership model. And then there should have a standard KPI, service level agreement, and all these things for the optical fiber infrastructure, so that we can save the capital expenditure and operational expenditure. And then due to lack of competitive human resource, we are facing the problem. So let's train them and let's start making Nepal for some products which are very useful in a daily maintenance and all these things. And there should have a culture of healthy competition, so that we can have live it together, we can grow together, and there should have the development of the professionalism among the professionals of ISPs and telcos in Nepal. So fair mechanism of infrastructure leasing and sharing with each other should be there, and guaranteed bandwidth versus market rumor. One of the things I want to focus over here is that in the market, this ISP provide these kinds of bandwidth over there, this ISP provide this volume of bandwidth over there in this cost. But actually, it should be regulated, because it's a fake information, fake message to the customer. So there is the issue of how to control that rumor. It should be taken care by the Nepal Telecom Authority, and there is definitely the right of consumer. So private versus government and public entity, they must work together, though there is a different environment. Thank you so much. Sorry, मैले अलिकति टाइम बढी लिएँ। अब यो मेरो सानसाना कुरा, त्यो ठुल्ठुला 5G 4G को होइन कि, हामीले डे टु डे युज गरेर फेस गरिरहेको इस्यु भएको भएर त्यो अलिकति समय पनि लाग्यो। त्यसको निम्ति म सरी भन्न चाहन्छु। Any issues?
Any question? Okay. Thank you, Sargam sir. यति डिटेलमा यति एक्सपिरियन्सलाई यत्रो वर्षको एक्सपिरियन्सलाई डिटेलमा स्टेप बाई स्टेप पोइन्ट बाई पोइन्ट इलस्ट्रेट गरिदिनु भएकोमा शालिग्राम सरलाई धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद. Next up we have Airtel's journey to Nepal's digital transformation by Mr. Mohammed Amir, Head of Business Solution Consultant, Airtel. Over to you, Mr. Amir.
Yeah, good evening all. Yeah, I'm Mohammed Amir and I head the solutions for Airtel Business. So today's topic is how Airtel has been part of the journey in Nepal's digital transformation. And since Airtel is an ISP, it's a telco and is also an enterprise provider. Send it on the mail also. Send it on the mail also. There's some technical issue, so. So today's topic is how an telco and an ISP company, Airtel, has helped Nepal in the digital transformation. So Airtel's operation has started in Nepal back in 2009. And since then till today, Airtel has been with Nepal in the immense growth that we have seen, right? 2009 was the start when a landlocked country, which was not having any access to the submarine network, where via India, Airtel actually connected Nepal to the world, right? So that was the time when we started. Okay, fine. I'll come back to the presentation as it's here. So this is how we are. We are number 2 operator in the world currently, present in 18 countries with 440 million customers and counting. The portfolio is very much diverse. We are a mobile service provider. We have got Airtel Business as a wing. We've got a broadband provider as homes department. We've got digital TV, and we've got a tower infrastructure company. In the digital assets, Airtel Extreme, a large content platform that we've got, music content with Wing, Airtel Thanks, and Airtel Thanks for Business is mainly for the customers, and then the payments bank of Airtel. So Airtel is one of the first telco to become a bank in India, and actually started the journey of all the telcos to also become a payments bank partner. So this is a very quick overview on Airtel Business. So Airtel Business has got 1,200 global carrier partnerships, 2,000 enterprise and customers, government clients on the Airtel network. We've got 1 million plus small and medium enterprise clients, and we've got 440 million plus strong customer base, both B2C and B2B customers put together. The network that Airtel uses to support the entire SAARC nation, the entire global network, global customers, specifically Nepal, since we are referring here, right? So we've got a huge number of POPs across the globe, leaving the domestic POPs within India. We've got 200 plus POPs, which serves the entire globe customers. We've got 3 lakh kilometers of domestic fiber and 3,60,000 plus kilometers of submarine network, right? As Dr. Swapnil was just mentioning, the issues in the fiber network, the maintenance of it, the deployment of it. So all of that is there in India. We have passed it. Nepal is still growing. So the story of the fiber infrastructure remains the same, whether it is a developing nation or it's underdeveloping nation. The issues remain same, but we've gone a long way through it, and we've got a huge kilometers of fiber on the field right now. We've got data centers to support the customer requirements, and then we've got satellites, we've got voice, cables, international cables, where Airtel is either the consortium partner, the owner of the entire cable, or we've got partnership in terms of capacities and other things. Airtel also owns the cable landing stations in India and in Africa, right? And then, of course, the customers base that is already discussed. As a snap, if we see as how globally Airtel is identified, we've got, and specific to SAARC, if we talk here, because Nepal and India is part of the SAARC country, Airtel today serves 60% traffic, internet traffic of SAARC customers. And for Nepal also, it is 60% plus customers, right? 50% users IP traffic is being served by Airtel. In the start, as I mentioned, the Nepal's digital journey has been uh, a very interesting story where we are seeing a huge growth in the Nepal consumer base, right? If we currently see. So Airtel has been at the forefront in assisting Nepal connect to the world, in assisting Nepal being a landlocked country, how a submarine network could have been, could be enabled for Nepal so that they can, so that their customers can also access the internet world. It was in 2009 when Airtel first connected the Sonali POP in India with Butwal in Nepal, right? After all the regulatory clearances from Nepal government and Indian government, in 2009, Airtel was connected, Airtel connected India and Nepal. In 2011, when the ISPs and the telecom operators of Nepal needed more resilient and more number of POIs to connect, we had one more connectivity from Sagoli, which later got shifted to Raxaul towards Birganj in Nepal, right? So when we had two POPs, we were very sure that Nepal would remain connected with the geopolitical diversity of from Butwal and Birganj. In 2014, there was again a demand from the Nepal consumers that we should have one more terrestrial POI, and we connected Biratnagar from Forbesganj town, which is in Bihar in India. And now we see one more thing, that there is again a requirement that is coming up from Nepalganj, and Airtel is again focused to see how we can connect Nepalganj from India, which would then cover the entire border location, all the borders that is there connecting towards India, which is motorable. Will also have an OFC fiber path where we can connect Nepal and India together, right? If you look at the technology, how it has grown, initially Nepal connectivity was only on an SDH network, right? The connectivities that the consumers, the ISP providers wanted here was on an SDH network, on an STM base. And today the requirement, we talk nothing less than 10G and 100Gs. So I and the entire Airtel actually congratulate the growth that we see in Nepal, and we wish all of them a good luck that we continue to grow this way, right? So from an SDH network to a high capacity OTN network and demanding is something that you all should cherish for. In the backhaul capacity also, in 2009, Airtel connectivity started with just 1 Gbps. And today we are 5 Gbps plus for only the backhaul part to serve the Nepal traffic. So that is how it is growing, and we expect to see this grow further. So likewise, just now, as you were saying, that Nepalganj is one area where we don't have any connectivity. We've got at Biratnagar, Butwal and Birganj. Very soon, we do plan to have Nepalganj also have a terrestrial international POI connectivity. Of all the SAARC countries we just mentioned, I'll be skipping some of the slides because we're short of time. Nepal have got 3 right now: Sonali, Raxaul and Forbesganj. Rest are for the other SAARC countries. From the connectivity perspective, we spend 1 minute on this slide. This is how we connect the 3 locations, the international terrestrial POI, Forbesganj, Raxaul and Sonali. While in Raxaul and Sonali, Airtel has deployed their OTN network to serve high capacity bandwidth requirements, and have also, since with the demand for IP network and to service a better network, Airtel actually deployed the internet routers right at the border locations. Instead of serving them from the international gateways of Mumbai and Chennai, what we've done is we've deployed the internet POPs at the gateway, at the terrestrial POI locations directly. So today, as we speak, from Raxaul and from Sonali, you can access the IP router directly, right? So all the contents are faster to you. They are at a low latency and are more resilient. We don't have to travel up to the international media gateway of Mumbai and Chennai. At Forbesganj, we don't have 1 IP routers, but this year we plan to have that as well. OTN backhaul protected with 2 major backhauls is already there. There is a blueprint which we have for Nepal. This is how we keep the network ready at our end to continue serve all the requirements of Nepal, right? Like we have an architecture and design of OTN network at the border location. The OTN network is further going to get complemented with an OPGW backed network soon in the next 12 to 18 months. So this is also going to address the availability concerns which is there partially at times because of the underground fiber network, right? And from the scalability and resiliency perspective, we don't consider any of the international POI locations serving Nepal as our POP B. All of these all are aggregate main POPs where the NLD OTN equipments are deployed at the border locations to serve any capacities that are required, right? From the projection and prospect perspective, since NLD and ISP both are deployed at the border locations, we have capacities available. From the solution perspective, basis the need and the requirements of the customer. Different customers, different requirements in Nepal. Some are high valued customers, some are still growing and they may need still smaller capacities on a lower rate of the port, maybe 1 gig, 10 gig, while some have grown to accept 100 Gs. So we have the solutions which are now available from the range of 1 gig up to 100 gig and 10 gig ports, right? And then to address the border locations fiber requirements at Nepal end, where one fiber pairs can only give you maximum 100 Gs. And if at both the ends we are ready to invest on an OTN POI, right, we can have one fiber give extend multiple lambdas of 100 G or 200 Gs to give us capacity on a single pair of fiber, right? So across the border, if we have started shaking hands with the OEMs at both the ends who can assist us in creating an OTN POI, which will help us carry huge traffic on a single pair of fiber. So instead of deploying multiple fiber pairs across the border, just one single fiber pair can help us actually deploy huge capacities and reduce the stress of having border fibers in multiple pairs by each operators. I am going a bit fast because there were a few more pointers which I wanted to elaborate. On the NLD network, serving from the border locations far east in India towards Mumbai and Chennai, towards the media gateways, we now plan to complement the existing network with the OPGW and utility fibers so that any concerns that we have on our availability and resiliencies are addressed. There's a huge submarine network which Airtel has and which we leverage it completely for the Nepal connectivity, right? So anything and everything that we have connectivity from Mumbai and Chennai, all the multiple fiber cable, all the submarine cable networks that we have towards Singapore, Europe, US, Japan, all of them are available for, are getting reached to the Nepal borders via the NLD network that we just discussed. So Airtel just doesn't own the submarine network, it also operates and maintains the submarine network. So many of the cables which is there in the world, at least India terminating, Singapore terminating, US terminating, are owned by Airtel. So the service, the operations, the network maintenance and management are done by us. Similarly, the IP network is something which is majorly experienced by all of you directly. This is an IP network which we serve from the border locations. Its strength is known, the ASN that we have. The entire day we've heard today as how the IP network is going to help us further digitize the Nepal market. So the IP network that we have today is completely laden with the entire global reached IP, right? So any content that you wish to access can be accessed from the IP network. One more topic which I would like to cover in a brief way is so we know we've talked about the submarine network, we've talked about the underground terrestrial fiber network, which all of you are also having. Now, since Nepal is also a region which has got a hilly terrain region, mountainous regions, where we have got 25 to 30% plus population currently residing on the on the uh, uh, on the mountain regions and other places where the network reachability is difficult, right? Broadband access to these customers in even at many times the mobile access to these customers gets difficult because the laying of infrastructure at the mountainous areas, at the hilly areas are difficult. So we've got OneWeb as a service. OneWeb is a service where Airtel has partnered, Airtel's got stake in it, where this is going to help us do two things. Either we have a B2B connectivity using OneWeb Leo service, or we can use this particular service to backhaul the mobile network, right? The mobile cells that we have, either it is for 4G or it is for 2G or 5G. This can be particularly used to backhaul the mobile network. So there are these two major use cases, and there are other many multiple use cases which can be seen more in detail when we connect separately, right? So this is a technology, this is a network. When since we have got a technical team sitting here, some of them are still in the learning phase. This is one more technology which people should have interest for. While fiber is something which is must required, but for some of the areas where when we talk about network for all and network for every place that we have in our country, this is something which is going to fill the gap for, right? Where we cannot reach using our fiber, where we cannot reach using our mobile coverage. This is something which can help. So OneWeb as a technology works on a LEO orbit, right? I'll not be going into detail, but yes, OneWeb has done its 80% of deployment already, covering the globe. In the Nepal would be getting covered by 3 SNP nodes, 2 in India and 1 in Thailand. So we expect that by the end of this fiscal, all of these 3 would be live, and OneWeb Leo service would be available for service, right? So as a technology, the members here, I would request them to get into the website and go through it, study, and see how you can further detail this, right? Just on a quick one, for an information sake, as of today, we planned for 648 individual satellites, 588, 12 in each plane. Is something that will be live, and what we've planned is that there would be 5 spare satellites for every region, right? And this is the overall snap of the SNPs that is going to address the entire globe. We would be getting addressed. Nepal is going to be addressed from these 3, right? 2 in India and 1 in Thailand. Nepal offerings is what we've decided basis the market and other things. The South Asia market where Nepal comes in would be approximately for 1 Gbps. And furthermore, if there is any B2B customer who would require a satellite service by you, can also be serviced for higher capacity requirements. So this satellite has got a scope to give capacities even beyond 1 Gbps. These are some of the use cases where we can think of using satellite communication instead of the traditional communications of mobile backhaul or of the fiber ones, right? As a data center, today in the morning, we heard more discussions on data center. So Airtel is also a data center provider. Since Airtel being a service provider, a telco, and is also a data center provider, all the more it makes the data center service more and more available, because it can provide connectivity as well as data center space, right? So we've got a huge customer base here as well. We've got 12 large hyperscalers, and we've got 120 plus edge data centers, which is used for both for our mobile services and also for our B2B enterprise customers, right? Here also, as today we heard that power is a constraint, power is a challenge across the globe in every country. Some of the countries have already gone dry in terms of power. Like if we see one of our neighboring countries, Singapore, where they've already gone started to go dry on new powers. As similar to that, keeping that in view, we've also started going green, right? So maximum and most of our new deployments are planned such that we go green instead of using the fossil fueled power. This is a quick view on the graph of the data centers that we have across the India network, right? Some of them are the hyperscalers, while all of the data center, right? So this is a mix of since Airtel itself has the connectivity products, it has mixed it with the IP product, with the connectivity product, and of course with the data center product. So all of this gets mixed when you take anything from Nextra. So I hope I have been on time. Thank you very much. And this has been a great evening. We from Airtel have seen, we've been here since since morning, and then the 5 days workshop. We congratulate once again Nepal and every members here as for their growth till now, and we wish them good luck to grow further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amir, for that beautiful insight into Airtel's journey in Nepal. Next up, I would like to request Indivar Badal to come up for a panel discussion. So we'll maybe
Hello. It works. Thank you, Rupesh. I'd like to call on the stage the panelists for today's discussion. Dr. Pradeep Paudel, Deputy Director of NTA. Binay Bora, founder of Vianet. Bharat Gulati from Airtel. Amitesh Roy from CG Communications. Vishal Hemne from Nokia. Mohammad Adil Israr from Encel. Thank you. Please. Just sit anywhere you prefer. Okay. I think it's. Huh? So, thank you. Our topic for the panel discussion is navigating the future of broadband in Nepal, fixed versus mobile broadband.
Let me introduce our panelists for today. I'll start with Dr. Pradeep Paudel. He's the Deputy Director at NTA. He started as telecom engineer at Nepal Telecom, but for over 12 years, I believe he's at NTA. He did his PhD in multimedia communications and quality of experience. And we had many of us in the industry has been working with him for a very long time. So a round of applause for him. Then Bharat Gulati. So he's been regional business head for Shark and China for Airtel business at Bharti Airtel. He has over 19 years of experience in telco with over 21 years in different capacities in similar industries. So he brings to this discussion his experience doing multiple roles within B2C and B2B segment. He has also worked for customers like SMB Enterprise, and now he's leading SARC in global business. Vishal Hemne, I suppose I pronounced your name correctly. So he's with Nokia. He is the head of sales in Nepal and Bhutan. I believe I can call you territory manager for these two countries. Vishal has been working on enhancing broadband penetration with all the leading operators in Nepal. For over 22 years, he has worked with major OEMs in ICT industry to enable operators with telecommunication technology solutions. So Nokia with Vishal's leadership is guiding, enabling and enhancing holistic communication infrastructure in Nepal, and thereby helping not only on reducing digital divide, but strongly supporting digital Nepal drive. Thank you. Let me introduce our next participant, Binay Bora. He's an entrepreneur with what, close to 30 years of experience now. So I think he started his career at Mercantile in the mid-90s, helping launch the ISP operations. Then in 1999, he founded Vianet, now a very big player in the market. And he has been one of the founders of npNOG8 and been closely associated with the whole internet community. He has led ISPAN several times, and he's, I think, still associated with the ISPs in Nepal, and he's also a big supporter of npNOG. So thank you. Then Mohammed Adil Israr, I believe I pronounced the name correctly. So he's the Chief Technology and Enterprise Business Officer, so CTEO. It's an interesting title at Ncell Axiata, which is part of Axiata Group Bharat. As the CTO of Ncell, he is responsible for managing and overseeing technology strategy, operations planning, deployment, and enablement of, digital technologies for Ncell. With over 20 years of experience in telco, he is a seasoned telecom manager that has grown from technology operations to network strategic functions. Thank you. So Amitesh Roy, he's CEO of CG Communications Limited. He also comes with experience of over 20 years, 12 of which in telco manager roles. He also has a wide spectrum of expertise, ranging from electronics manufacturer to telco and ISP broadband access. Thank you. To begin with, oh, sorry. Yeah, sometimes this is. So I'm Indivar Paral. I've been in the ISP industry for over 20 years and in different capacities. And now I'm more into not the ISP operations, but the other aspects, and also in research and education network. So I've been with npIX, even ISPAN, and now with npNOG, and involved in various training and other activities. So I'd like to start the discussion with some interesting statistics that I gathered. So it came from various sources, because the numbers don't quite match up from different sources, because they're from the different years. So when coming to our topic today, mobile the penetration or the reachability of fixed broadband in Nepal is almost 70%. No? Less than 40, okay. Less than 40. And less than 40, okay. But compared to the rest of the countries in South Asia, which are in single digit, it's quite different. And but when it comes to mobile, with India, which is close to 90, it might be the highest in the world, if not, it could be one of the highest in the world. While Nepal is around 65%. So we can clearly see there's a very vast difference in fixed versus mobile, and Nepal versus other countries in South Asia. So we have a range of expertise with global, local, and South Asian experience here, which I find, I hope will be very interesting for the audience as well as for our discussion today. So let me start our questions with Dr. Pradeep Paudel. So I'd like you to start off with some explanation on the current state of broadband connectivity in Nepal, both in terms of fixed and mobile broadband.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the very interesting question. I think in Nepal, as you mentioned, that we are quite good enough in the context of fixed broadband if you compare with others, particularly the development of this FTTH. I think that could be the reason of, because we are quite liberal for extending the wires and those things. That could be the reason. I think that's why we are quite good position in fixed broadband in Nepal, as you mentioned. I think it's for current MS report of ENT, it's nearly 40%. It's nearly 40%. But if we think the fixed, if you, in the other hand, in the mobile broadband, in our context, we have considered 3G and beyond as a mobile broadband in our context. If you ask personally, for me, I would say to be a mobile broadband, at least we should have at least 4G. If you ask for me, I would say something like that. Anyway, we have considered 3G as well for mobile broadband as well. If you think its penetration is around 93%, it's more than 90%. And in total, the penetration is quite healthy. It's around 133, more than 133%, because same person could have the SS, of like mobile broadband together with fixed, and so that in such a way that it's more than 100%. That is based on our MIS report. And that is the current status of mobile broadband and the fixed broadband. But the another concerns that we have to be still we have to work very hard, particularly in fixed as well as in mobile, because the fixed broadband is mainly concentrated for the cities. Yes, it is usual because it has some sense, because it could be a business case for the operators. That's why they are focusing on city. But if we think about the rural areas and the other high hills and the Himalayan range, that area, the mobile broadband would be the better options. But still, we need to do a lot of work to provide the connectivity, especially the broadband connectivity for that areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pradeep. So, yes, mobile broadband connectivity. I remember like 10, 15 years back when I went to the mountains and we tried to access it. It was quite limited, but then in the last few years, it's improved a lot, and we see a lot of improvement going on there. So I'd come to, I'd like to ask Vishal Hemne from Nokia. So what are the key challenges and limitations faced by consumers and service provider in consumers and service providers who are trying to deliver broadband service in developing countries like Nepal? So I'd like to put your experience and observations that could help our regulator and service providers.
Yeah, that's a burning question, actually. So it's been, I'm here for the last 7 years, actually. So I've seen little more dynamics, how it is going on here. Nepal, currently I do see both the sides in fixed broadband and mobile broadband. There are certain challenges and blessings in this country. It's unlike India, which is very close by. You can follow that particular model. But yeah, like Sir said, we have a huge reach actually of both mobile broadband and fixed broadband, actually to the maximum part of Nepal over the last so many years since then the fixed broadband has come in picture. Let me start with mobile broadband first. So yeah, we are not having much, we are almost available in every part of the world in most of the countries. Here we are just having the observations going on. First of all, I would say the perception of mobile broadband, the cost of mobile broadband is pretty strong and it's very costly. That's the first perception. That's the first. When I take myself as my example, whenever I land here, my perception and my personal, the perspective towards this country when I land here changes, because in India, we don't look at the data at all. And we just keep on consuming. There is no limit to it. And when I land here, things like I need to switch off the data or need to be ensuring that I should take the data pack and it should be used in a proper way. Otherwise, things will be. So that perception has been there for, I'm not sure it is right or wrong, but that perception is there with the majority of the Nepalese, and mobile data is always a costly affair. And that's the whole reason why people are moving towards the fixed broadband. Another major, it's a topology, another challenge for me, mobile broadband, that's nothing to do with the operator, but actually the topology itself is like Nepal has any guy coming from source to destination, the distances are pretty short. So, and most of the guys are mobile on the commuting is on the bikes, or maybe the public transport is not so much. So they don't use mobile data. So source and destinations, you always have Wi-Fi, and then they try to hook it onto that. So these are the second kind of a blockers for the adoption of it. I won't say broadband reachability. I would say it is the adoption. Third thing is like the ecosystem, which is on the devices, which currently 4G adoption is little, though it is growing, but not to the pace what we have been seeing in other parts of the world. We are still, voltage adoption is pretty less in this country. So we think that should have been the case. There is a specific need to address that. I remember in 4G days in Bharti, we used to have model towns, right? So we used to have specific model towns when 4G was launched, how the devices ecosystem is, who is having 3G enabled, 4G enabled phones, and how we are targeting those customers and try to make it more successful use case. That's how 4G has really done well in India, and it has grown. So these are the certain factors which are like adoption is the biggest challenge why mobile broadband is not that favorable or maybe considered as the main broadband source for anyone actually. Coming to fixed broadband, the major issue, I've been working with fixed broadband for almost like 6 years here. the cost and the ARPUs are pretty much stable over a period of time, and it has deteriorated. It's a hyper competition is also there. There are so many competitions out here. It's like everybody is striving to struggle and survive, and then you get an innovative product and services also. So I think if you see, it's a continuous investment and the operations also. So people are striving to give the best of the services. Earlier it was single band 2.4G, then 5 gigahertz has come. Now it will go to Wi-Fi 6 also, but it is evolving very fast. And I can compare it with the Indian market or any other Southeast Asian market. Nepal is way ahead of adoption of the technology on the fixed broadband. If I consider the same thing in the mobile operator side, the competition is pretty much not there as such. There is no much, subscribers are pretty stable with the two operators, and it is like, it is not driving any kind of innovation on the services towards it. And that's where I feel the competition should be there. In India, we remember in 2010, we used to have 6 operators. And now it is like 3-4 operators, but they are still competing very well. And that's where we have this, eventually subscribers get more benefit out of it. So these are some of the challenges which I feel is very much necessary. These are also challenges, but what I feel is there are, which I think is the kind of a solution to this is like mobile broadband has to come at par with the service quality with the fixed broadband, because the benchmark in this country is a fixed broadband for everyone. So the unlimited, the kind of you can say the throughput wise and the kind of so that's where I think is the more challenges which are there.
Thanks, Vishal. Vishal highlighted that while reachability is not that of an issue, it's adoption and lack of competition. So I'd like to ask Adil the next question, because it's quite related to this. Why mobile broadband adoption in Nepal is so low compared to other South Asian neighbors and India? I mean, India, it's quite good. So do you agree that what Vishal just said, that maybe the cost or the perception of cost, because it's quite confusing. The packages and all these are actually quite confusing, and people tend to, they remember to turn off data all the time. I mean, it's, so your thoughts, please?
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for this is a very valid question. And I think I can partially agree with what Vishal is saying. I'm not fully agree. The point that we need to understand is that as a user, as a consumer, any user is asking about data as a usage. The countries where fixed broadband penetration is low, mobile is high, and vice versa. Now we can look into the options of, and we can create a lot of comparisons that what is happening around. But the fact remains is, if we talk about serving the cheap data to consumer, an ISP is paying $4,000 to $5,000 a year as license, whereas we are paying $4 billion as license. All right. And then everybody expect that we need to give the same price. Second thing itself is what we need to understand is, and the fact remains is that Nepal has more than 50% of land mass, which is constituent of mid hills and high mountains. The moment, and I think there are experts from ISP sitting here, the moment your population density goes to a certain number, deploying cables has not become a solution. So what is more important in the country is that fixed and mobile broadband has to coexist. There are areas where mobile broadband will excel, definitely, because at the end of the day, the purpose has to be digital adoption. The purpose has to be connectivity, which is a need, basic need for everyone, and that needs to go. Now, coming to the point that offering the similar set of services, what we need to see is as a benchmark that what is the services usage in Nepal. I mean, according to the statistics, if we look at it, more than 50% of the traffic that goes out of this country is streaming. All right. And if I even further dig it down on the basis of the data, it's more about YouTube, it's more about TikTok, it's more about certain other services. Now, the question that we need to ask about is that if we are chasing a dream of speed, what are we talking about? 98% of the people are using small screen. And on a small screen, the maximum resolution that you require is 720p. And for that 720p, you don't need a lot of speed. So affordability is a key, but at the same time, we need to understand that what exactly people are using internet for. So the problem, what we need to solve is that if we are asking about a broadband connectivity to drive this country, the digital adoption, and whatever is listed as a part of the Nepal digital framework, we have to actually develop the ecosystem. All right. So that's the key point. So it's not about that mobile is expensive or mobile is cheap. We need to understand that both of mobile and fixed, in which territories they're placing. And I'm always a very big favorer of, having things coexistent at all levels. Fundamentally, I think one point I agree with Vishal, what he said is that usually mobile broadband usage across the world is very high when people are commuting in between places. In Nepal, I'm sure, you'll try your luck if you wanted to use mobile while driving. You'll get banged into the other person because of the traffic and everything. So I think what we have to try to address here, and I'm again saying on this part, is that if we have to talk about, we have to actually elevate the level of usage. If usage is all about streaming videos and watching YouTube, I think then we are hitting the wrong buttons. That's my concern and point would be. But at the same time, quality of service enhancement is the right of every consumer. And this is where, if we look at the spectrum allocation, and my friend has given the option of what is happening in India, we have a lot of spectrum lying here, all right, which is unused, which could be plugged into the system to actually enhance the speeds and the broadband experience that you could get on mobile. Last point on, when you talk about competition, Nepal is a country which is over 30 to 32 million of population. SIM penetration is already at 130%. I would say best of luck if we want to bring another third operator here. We have seen 2 operators going completely off grid. And the reason is the prohibitive cost when you wanted to get into the difficult territories, lack of infrastructure availability in certain areas, very confusing policies, prohibitive framework in certain cases. So while we welcome competition in this, we would say best of luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, that's quite an interesting perspective. Continuing this discussion, I'd like to ask Bharat about, I'm going to get a different perspective now. The data usage in India is one of the highest in the world. So why do you think this is so, and what are your observations or suggestions for Nepal?
Hello, yeah. So as you rightly said, India, you see that why the mobile penetration is so much high in India. India is being the second largest mobile subscriber base in the world. So with over 900 plus million, eyeballs which are present in India, if you look at it, it becomes a very natural pull factor for all the hyperscalers across the world, for all the large content players to come and sit in India to offer their services. And all these large OTT plays, be it Amazon, Flipkart, all these large OTT players, Netflix, they came to India, they are India, they put their services and, servers and everything in India. In parallel, as our panelists also said, the 4G services were on their peak. So with the transition from 3G to 4G and now from 4G to 5G, the data penetration has peaked to its maximum. We have a more than 100% plus mobile penetration, which is there in India. And, which comes with the backup of a strong and a very huge amount of infrastructure investment, which has been done by all the mobile operators in India. If you largely look at it, from a B2C parlance perspective, in the entertainment side of it, all the content players like the Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, Hotstars, all these players are there who are actually, kicking the demand of the mobile internet, and not only the mobile internet, but on the other screen as well. So just to quote an example, if you, in the last IPL season, the final of IPL was watched on Geo Cinema. It was the highest subscriber, around 12 crore, users who were watching the final of IPL over the screen. I mean, that has never happened in the past. So from that perspective, entertainment is the one, section which is the very major pull factor. Second is about the digital payment transformation which has happened in India. So, leading the overall Digital India campaign, which is being led by the Government of India, all those payment digitization which come from Bharat Pay, all those QR-based payments have actually, increased multifolded in India, which has again given a huge demand of the internet services. And then if you look at it on the other side of it, education and health sector also. All those operators like Byju's, Educom, the education system has been changed. It has become more now from a classroom training to a more of a digital training, which needs data consumption. And on a B2B side of it, as Amir also mentioned in his PPT, we at Airtel only, we serve 10 million plus SMB customers in India. And all these SMB customers are largely now going, accessing cloud services for Microsoft Azure, for AWS services to access their application, which is leading, further leading to a data consumption. So all these, factors put together have actually increased the demand of internet services in India, both in mobile and the fixed line perspective. From a Nepal perspective, we look at it, we don't see Nepal as a difference of India. I mean, the amount of growth which is happening in Nepal, I remember we started in 2009, which Amir also shared, with less than STM bandwidth. And now it is approximately a 2 TB, international bandwidth, which Nepal consuming it. So the amount of growth which is happening in terms of the data consumption is parallel and is enormous in terms of the growth. So what I see that in terms of the fixed line connectivity growth, I think all the leading ISPs and the telcos, who are actually putting the infrastructure on the ground to make sure that whatever possible fiberization can be done in order to meet the last mile of the person. Although I know that there has been a lot of challenges with respect to the terrain, with respect to some, unfavorable situations wherein fiberization cannot be done. The percentage is little bit probably, but if you look at it as compared to India also, the amount of growth in fixed broadband which is happening in Nepal is enormous. In fact, it is the highest among the South Asian countries all. So I think all the continued support and all these continued investments which are happening by the ISPs, the large ISPs who are actually leading this market from the front foot, will actually further. It is all basically like in the previous thing, the speakers are also said that probably a little bit more discipline in terms of the laying the fiber. Probably one of the option of sharing the fiber could be the one thing which would ensure that all those cost of managing that fiber would reduce, and then the overall input cost will come down, and the benefit can be passed on to the end user as well, would make this thing. But I think next coming 3 to 5 years, what we see in India and what we see in Nepal as well is like the same. It going to be an excited time for both of us in terms of the internet growth. Thanks.
Thanks, Bharat. Yeah, quite insightful after talking to the experts. I mean, I'm beginning to feel lots of different thoughts. And continuing this, I'd like to go to Amitesh. So you come from fixed broadband. You also had a roadmap for mobile. So what emerging trends or technology do you foresee shaping the future of broadband in Nepal?
Yeah, thank you. I think I would like to first congratulate the organizer for hosting such a wonderful event. I think I kind of agree with what Bharat said in terms of if you see the market, for last couple of years, we have seen that the mobile business itself has been on a downhill. And second, overall industry in couple of months or recent times has seen that the very slowdown on subscriber growth, usage growth. And why it's so is because kind of our entire consumption behavior is dependent on Google and Facebook and YouTube, where like 60% of demand is driven by that. And I think the biggest challenge for us is that we need to kind of develop the OTT as the main growth driver for next 3 to 4 years time, And when I say OTT, video on demand, SVODs, TVODs, audios, gaming, that's where the next curve of consumption will come in Nepal. And I think the whole policy framework for OTT in Nepal is very stringent, not supportive. And then that's why we are seeing that there is not much of growth in local OTT industry itself. And we, from like in a trend perspective, I think that's where something we are really focused on. And second, I think to follow up is that nowadays a technology deployment or a business model deployment is not just talking about 4G or 5G, but I think it's the most important variable is the customer experience part of it. How do you have a intelligence to the edge? How do you are capturing the consumer behavior, looking at availability, throughput, user experience. And that's where I think that will be one of the biggest trend which we foresee, which is kind of lagging currently, even in our operations, or when we compare ourselves with competition as well, that the intelligence to edge is kind of out of the picture. And followed by is that I think still we are looking at services as one solution fits for all. The deployment of data, the culture of centralized intelligence, having a central repository, whether they are in CRM, social media, transaction billing, installation, sales, those are not being mined enough to understand our customer much better. So we see that as one of the major trends upcoming. And I think I'll also kind of add to Adil is that I think we all are crying because as a challenger, we think that the current ecosystem is very friendly to a duopoly market scenario where we don't feel that there's enough incentives for the challengers to come in, whether it be, let's say, infrastructure sharing or domestic roaming or other initiatives which makes the challenger to think about a positive business case. So that's a challenge. But having said that, as a challenger, we have a great opportunity to come in and disrupt the market because then we don't have legacy of 2G sunset, 3G sunset. We can straight focus on a 4G, standalone 5G, and kind of have a much better unit economics with zero legacy ecosystem. So that's how we look at ourselves, when we are designing our thoughts to enter this market, as a challenger.
Thanks, Amitesh, for your thoughts. And I'm noticing Dr. Pradeep is noting down lots of things. So I'd like to ask Binay now, how does the speed and capacity of fixed broadband compare to mobile broadband in Nepal and possibly compare that to neighboring countries? Do you think the fixed broadband scene will be similar, will see similar growth in the next few years and near future?
You mean the speed, right? So Adil just mentioned that speed is not even a topic right now because everybody is getting what they're supposed to get. If your video is supposed to run, then the video is supposed to run. At the end of the day, the video can't run faster than your, what you can sense. So in that sense, a 4K video, probably yes, and then 8K, we can talk about those things. And the other comment I want to make, I'll go more into this, but when Adil said, we've got 2 providers, I'm already shaking my head. Good luck to the third one that's going to come in. Think about hundreds of ISPs already here. How do we deal with that? So yeah. So when you have to pay billions for that, and I hear you, friend, but problem for us is look at our books today. It's not a good site. It's not a good site compared to the EBITDA you guys enjoy or enjoyed in the past. Ours is because we've got what we call a perfect competition. Some say it's an unfair competition, and all that. But in a perfect competition scenario, what happens is everything cancels out. And that's what's happening to the ISPs today. And that's a big challenge. But on the bright side, what happened from 2009, I was listening to the presentation from our friend from Airtel, 2009 when they came here. If you look at the trajectory of the growth of internet over the world, Nepal also caught on around the same time. For me, my own experience, when I started internet, we were doing mostly wireless. You know, the speeds were what, 256 kilobits, 512 kilobits. 1 Mbps was a big deal then, and it used to cost arm and a leg for that. But once when the satellite era ended in 2009-8, and the Airtel started coming with their fiber cross-border, we also had to think, okay, if now we get cheap bandwidth from India, then the households are going to get, you know, we can reduce the cost per household. Now, how do you do that? The way to do that was, of course, through optical fiber. So optical fiber that came in was the slam dunk first, you know. There's no other technology that is better than that. And it keeps on growing. Today, my own ISP talks about, you know, more than 1 gigabit fiber. It's possible. 10 gig, 25 gig. Nokia gave a presentation on 25 gig fiber. So yeah, speed-wise, it's not going to be an issue per household, but the cost is definitely. And we saw that during the pandemic, what happened was there was a big spurt, big growth in terms of household adopting broadband all over Nepal. And one of the reasons was, you know, even if the price was expensive for a certain segment of the population, it's a very cheap broadband. But then for some certain segments, it's still expensive. You know, if you go to Dolpa or a very remote place in Nepal, it's still very expensive. So what happened was after the pandemic, most of the household again shut off. They didn't use broadband. So the reason probably is because it was expensive in those areas. Other than that, the bandwidth grew a lot. So, you know, it's an unending story, so many stories here, but this is the perspective. Bandwidth grew very fast, it's still growing. What happens in the future? I think it'll definitely grow. It'll go hand in hand with the 5Gs and the 4G, 5G that's going to come up. So yeah, I see a very good future for fixed broadband.
Thank you. Thank you, Vinay. So we're running out of time. Our schedule is delayed already. So I'd request for the next set of questions, please try to finish your answers within 1 minute. Please try to squeeze that. I know it will take more than 5 minutes for each of these, but we have limited time and the social is waiting. So Dr. Pradeep, from the perspective of government, what initiatives have been taken to improve broadband accessibility, especially in rural areas? And Adil also talked about spectrum and all these things. So would it help to open up some license with the objective of improving broadband quality and all that? And what more ways can the government foster the growth?
It's very tough to finish in 1 minute, 3 questions. And also I have some remarks with Adil's concerns as well. Anyway, I'll try to my best. First, I have some concerns about the Adil's, what he have raises to some issues. Yes, we have plenty of spectrum that is still remaining, and we should distribute it to the operators there, since they are quite hungry to get it. And we regulator, we NTA are already being ready for that. I hope once there is a committee in the ministry, once that get decided the things, we'll do it. Actually, we have already developed our roadmap also. After the decision, I hope it will be finished within 6 months. In that pace, we are working for that spectrum related issues. Yes, recently we had a study about the possibility of the third operator in our market. Yes, you actually not welcome, you challenged. Okay. Anyway, the study shows that in the similar economy like us, considering the similar environment also, if we go through around the world, we can notice what we notice is, yes, we could have at least 3 mobile operators that they could sustain in our market, in our economy, in our environment. Yes, for that, we regulator should provide a familiar or supportive infrastructure, particularly the policies. For example, infrastructure sharing, MNP, and others as well. Yes, we should come with very clarity on that. But anyway, our market deserves one more competent operator. Yeah, for that, just I want to add one remarks. And also about the price. Yes, it's quite tricky, you know. When we think the mobile price, our operators don't get the software and hardware in cheaper price for Nepal. But if we think from the customer perspective, we have to compare with their income or their capacity to invest. If we compare from that angle, our price is around 6 times expensive than other developed countries. Yes, that we have to work on it. Yes, there are a lot of obligations we have put to the operators. For example, license renewal fees, spectrum fees. Yes, there are many obligations, and also the tax burdens. Yes, there is, but we have to work on that, and it should be affordable for the operators. Otherwise, we cannot imagine the things of digital transformation and improving the quality of life of the people. Yes, I come to the second question. Sorry for time. I'm taking long time. Yes, for the rural, to expand the rural broadband, recently we are focusing to develop our broadband project through RTTF fund. And also we are going to make available the additional spectrum as soon as possible, as much as they wish. That is our approach. And also meanwhile, we are encouraging for 5G and beyond technologies as well to connect the rural, because the FWA application could be vital to connect our unconnected areas, and there would not be a business case for optical fiber or FTTH services. From the wireless spectrum viewpoint, yes, we have plenty of spectrum, and also in the existing policy, there is a provision for ISPs as well. Yes, we are going to distribute it, but the condition is different. As such, already there is a competition. There is duopoly in mobile market, but there is a competition in broadband because the new market trend is different, and they have to, now the operators have to compete with ISPs. And if you think about the obligations, it's too different. The level playing field is too different. There is no common level playing field, and in that case, it's very hard for the operators. That we regulators are very aware of that. Yes, there will be auctions. You can participate on it. Once you get it, you will get the mobile operator license. Yes, that is our approach, because we have to provide the same level playing field. About the fostering of the growth, for that, as I mentioned, we need the third operator, very competent. Otherwise, we cannot imagine the quality service at affordable price in this duopoly market. And even in the duopoly, one operator is the government operator, is even dangerous than the monopoly. Economics theory says like that. That's why we are very aware of these things. And also, meanwhile, to provide the favorable environment for all the operators and providing the level playing field, we are revising our policy and also the Telecommunication Act, and all the things is not in the NTA's hand, you know. For that, all the nation should have the common understanding, and we are working on that part. Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Pradip. So yeah, a lot of things are happening, and we are very hopeful to improve this thing. So I'd like to come back to Amitesh Roy. So you're relatively a new FTTH provider in the industry, which is already quite fragmented and crowded, and there's no entry barrier. So and so there are lots of challenges. And then what opportunities did you see while moving into this market?
I think our basic fundamental objective is to become a fixed mobile convergent player. So that we are not competing to become a mass nationwide fixed broadband service provider standalone. So our aspiration stands as we would like to become a fixed mobile convergent player with a clear opportunity we see is that there's a technology leap happening right now. Everyone's sitting with, as I earlier said, everyone's sitting with 2G, 3G, and 4G as a legacy as well. And we have a clear-cut opportunity to disrupt the market with much more disruptive technology, riding on 5G. And this is what is the core opportunity, what we see, and we are trying to work on it. But there are a lot of challenges because in terms of spectrum, we don't see that if C-band spectrum is not available for 5G, it's very difficult for a new player to come and compete on 2600 TDD band, because again, in a TDD band with 2600, there will be a significant upgradation in a 5G throughput experience, and the cost level will be still pretty high. We're looking at least minimum as a challenger to get a 100 megahertz block, so that we have substantial spectrum to large enjoy economy of scale with the new technology to be much more affordable, and then build it around a right ecosystem. So we believe that there are a lot of spaces which are still to be disrupted. The market is very much focused on enterprise. There's no one looking at digitalizing the SMB sector, from online transaction to data storage. There's so many things which needs to be done on SMB side, and again, on the OTT side. So we see that there's a lot of opportunity to be done. And still the market has got a lot of legacies to address on connectivity, infrastructure, and core services. So that's a great opportunity for us to come and maximize out of it.
Okay. Thanks, Amitesh. Thanks for also keeping it short. I'd like to go back to Adil. The question I'm about to ask you, I think you already covered in the previous one. In the context of lower mobile penetration, how can reach and affordability of broadband service be improved along with the coverage for general population, and especially considering the underserved areas?
So thank you so much for this question. So let me first put one answer to what Pradeep was saying. I mean, we always welcome competition, and there was a third operator, there was a fourth operator, and there was a fifth operator. So they were already there. So it's not about somebody's trying to bring a third operator. They were already there. So while you have 120 Binay, we have actually enough with 3, and those disappeared actually in the long run. So now let me answer the question on this. And I think on the other side of it, broadband is also progressing. And as Pradeep correctly highlighted, the numbers have already reached to 90%, which is not a low number. And just one correction, it is 4G alone. 3G is subset of it. So 4G is approx 90% of now. The challenge that we are facing across is that the data usage and needs are increasing, and that trend has actually changed immediately after the pandemic. A lot of things are being done on the phones, on the go, and people wanted to use the data. And it's not about, regardless of which kind of things that you will use. So improvement plan, if you talked about it, I mean, last 2 years consistently we are growing. 20% population coverage has been increased. Spectrum is awaited, and I think I've heard very good news from regulator that they are considering that. So definitely that good news will be passed on to my customers, and definitely that's the way forward that we wanted to drive. At the same time, since market, my friend Amitesh has talked about SMB, that's the area we have started focusing in. We invested into data center. Now we have invested heavily into cloud, and now we are actually going towards the application and development and the other side of it. So we welcome competition, but that's what the area we see would be required in Nepal to evolve the digital adoption. If we are always following and chasing the speed, trust me, I mean, 4G or 5G, when we talked about it, in a country which is having $1,200 or $1,300 per capita income, 5G device is costing $250 at this point of time now. So are we really chasing the right dream at right time? Maybe requirement is there, but then we need to see what are we doing. If we have to watch a faster YouTube, I don't think that we need 5G, or we don't be talking about 1 Gbps or 10 Gbps connections in fixed. It's more about bringing the ecosystem together so that people should start gaining benefits out of it. And I agree with what Amitesh has said here. SMB and other sectors needs to be developed together with the ecosystem so that the real essence of usage of broadband can be exercised and the entire country can be developed. Thank you.
Thank you, Adil. I'd like to go to Bharat next. So how should the broadband operators prepare themselves for the evolving demands and increasing reliance on digital services and applications?
So applications, as I gave the examples of the Indian context, the consumer behavior are changing, with time and pace. So the more and more applications, the more and more you'll get exposed to the rest of the world, the new innovative applications will come into the picture. like I said, that, the next 2-3 years will be definitely, evolving the SMB side of it and the enterprise side of it. And then probably you'll see a lot of IoT kind of a growth, which would be coming in, which would give a lot of opportunities for the new applications. And consumer at this point of time need two things. One is that at ease, at on the go, that he needs everything on his fingertips and obviously at the right cost. So if he's getting that internet with the right speed of it, at the right cost of it, he would demand a more and more use case of it. It is not only every time watching the content over the mobile devices. It is all about, because the lot of government applications will also go into the digital mode, which would give them a ease of breaking the queues while, for example, filing the application for the passport or filing the applications for the home meter. So all these applications will definitely, give a lot of ease to end users, which will come at the backbone of the internet growth only. And the more and more the network infrastructure which will be built in, and the more and more the promotion of the enterprise segment will be done. These new technologies are not new to the world. It may be new to a certain market, to a certain geography, but not to the new to the world. Thanks to pandemic, because a lot of the paperwork which used to happen earlier has now gone into the mobile apps only. You can do everything on mobile app, be it for all the government applications, for all the educations. It's just that for exam, you need to go and, sit in the classroom. Otherwise, all your education is happening on this. Doctor on call service, it gives a lot of, ease to the old age people who cannot go and, meet the doctor, and probably for the young guys as well. So the applications are very natural to come into the picture. And these applications will only run in, as I said, that it needs a very strong infrastructure to be built in. And as I said earlier, and with all the panelists' feedback is also there. I personally believe, we at Airtel personally believe, that there is a lot of excitement which still needs to be unfolds in coming 2-3 years, specifically in the Nepal market, because the way with the passion and with the energy, all of you guys are doing it in terms of growing the overall market, overall penetration of the services, be it in the mobile side of it or fixed side of it. A lot of happier time, lot of happy time is about to come, with a lot of ease and more into a digital mode of it. Thanks.
Thanks, Bharat. Okay, I'll go to Binay next. So, being a fixed broadband operator, what factors contribute to the cost of deploying and maintaining the infrastructure? How does it compare to mobile broadband?
Yeah, it's quite obvious that mobile broadband, in terms of deployment cost, we talk about OpEx, let's say. Mobile is what? There's no wires, no cutting, no dealing with national heroes like, Kulman Gising and Balen Shahs, Well, so we've got very, very high cost maintaining the networks. So yes, it's very costly. And so that is why I'd like to, go forward and look into it in a manner that, okay, we've done the good part. We've seen the pataos, we've seen the startups, we've seen the, the payment gateways and the government services coming online. It's very exciting times in terms of what we do online. It's very exciting. Now, what is the next phase for us, for our industry, the fixed broadband guys? And it is, of course, there has to be mergers and acquisition. From 100, we need to reduce to probably 10 or less. And how we go about it, we've got Dr. Pradeep here, and Dipesh sir from NTS there. So, our plea to the regulators and the power that be is, help us with the merger and acquisition. Help us become a scale of some, sort, so that we can also have a sustainable growth. We can give a sustainable service and coexist with the mobile operators. And probably one day, who knows, it's a conversion thing, and mobile and broadband can coexist, fixed broadband, and can be one company also. So, we solve all kinds of problems. So this is what I think it's going to be in the future, and has to be in the future.
Thank you. So I'd like to ask Vishal. So how can collaboration between the government, private sector and other stakeholders accelerate the expansion of broadband connectivity in Nepal. What would you, based upon your experience and observations, please enlighten.
I have heard of, so first of all, I would like to say there need to be a little bit pace to the RTDFs actually, which is held up for a while. The deployments of RTDFs are pretty much happening. Before COVID, things have really stopped. So that is very much the job is done by more or less the other private providers. But coming back to your point is like everywhere in the world, the dynamics are totally different, and maybe Nepal, we have to have more guidance here. Governments are collaborating with the private players and also with the stakeholders. There are many use cases which are presently available. What we see in Digital Nepal framework can be done today itself. So at a certain scale, actually, but with the 4G network, yeah, you would require more resources like spectrum, a little bit of more fiber reaching to the most of the districts right now. So I think anything which is related to, let us talk about disaster, health, education, your power, smart meter. Those are very critical for this country, disaster being very much. So those can be delivered today itself. So with the least of the investment, and we can utilize the current infrastructure itself pretty well right now itself. There are technologies available, which we have been doing. And there are many places worldwide, these use cases are already working for maybe 5-6 years now. And they're pretty matured on 4G itself. Fiber can be alternative and can be a standby link, but these use cases can be done. So this will really drive the Digital Nepal actually at this moment. It requires a framework at this moment, how all users across the different sectors, across industry or different sectors can be enabled with the present infrastructure. Let us talk about Middle East, or you go to European countries, I talk about. So these guys are deploying their separate network, maybe a mobility network, specifically for the government usage. Be it health, be it surveillance, be it security and health as well. So in Nepal, I'm not sure we are capable of delivering additional kind of, or anyone can deploy a specific network for government to deliver these kind of services. Yeah, we can collaborate with private players, use their particular infrastructure and start delivering it right away. And maybe we can evolve over a period of time when 5G comes in. We can evolve those services from certain degree of serviceability to a certain level. So today, push to talk, push to video is already available for police in many countries with the 4G. You can add maybe 10 megahertz with the current infrastructure. With the same radios, we can use that. So depending on the capacities which are available across the nation. So, and there are stakeholders like World Bank, ADBs here pretty much having a guidance to how, like in other developing countries, there are pretty much guidance for the digital framework for this country, for the developing countries. There are steps towards reaching out to that, but there are fragmented approach. If you go to any ministry for that matter, it reaches out to be their particular network, their particular separate kind of a fragmented approach. I feel it has to be very comprehensive approach towards it, of one single network with the different SLAs, with different encryptions, which is possible today itself. So those things I feel is very much important at this moment. Yeah, broadband, delivering it to users, fixed, mobile is pretty much at par actually. I won't say 4G is, it is like it is compared, as you said, fixed broadband is always, you always compare that against 4G, and then people see there is a buffering and all that thing happening. So sometimes it is there, sometimes it's not there. But at this moment, I feel also that there is a possibilities, very much big possibilities towards taking Nepal to a digital side, which is very much missing in this case. So we have been working with almost like 1,000+ operators globally with these kind of use cases. It varies from even, I was talking to someone here in Nepal for sanitation, for IoT sensors, how we can communicate, how the remote site in some of the areas which is how we can provide the clean water and all that. So those are the present people are around. They are doing, the IGOs and NGOs are doing, some embassies are also doing as per their particular capacities. But we need to make it more scalable. And scalable happens through the more collaboration with private and government. And there needs to be a little bit understanding of how framework works. We can help in that particular case.
Thank you, Vishal. The time's up, but I was going to, summarize the discussion and close it. But I believe Vishal has done an excellent job of doing that. So thank you all. This discussion could go on and go maybe 1 more hour easily, but we have run out of time. And thank you all for your excellent remarks. It's been quite insightful knowledge and digging into the challenges and opportunities and what we look forward in the future. So thank you. Maybe we have a photo session. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Indivar, and thank you to all the panelists for the great panel session that we had today. Very interesting panel discussion. एकातिर एनसेलको कुरा सुन्न पाइयो, अर्कोतिर एनटिए को भर्जन सुन्न पाइयो, त्यसमा विनयजीको पेन सुन्न पाइयो, अमिताभको फ्युचरको भिजन्सहरु सुन्न पाइयो, त्यस्तै गरी नोकिया र एयरटेलको आफ्नो आफ्नो पर्सपेक्टिभबाट हाउ द ग्रोथ क्यान बी अचिभ भन्ने सुन्न पाइयो. It was very interesting, and probably that's the reason we still have all the people sitting here very quietly. And अरुको इभेन्टहरुमा सायद 5:30 बजे नै मान्छेहरु चाहिँ गइसकेका हुन्छ. And this is the npNOG where we have like it's already 7 o'clock, past 7 o'clock, and we still have people sitting over here. Thank you very much. अब एउटा अर्को कृपा गर्दिनु होला, यहाँ सिटहरु अलि अगाडि खाली छ, प्लिज अगाडि आइदिनु होला so that it looks even more crowded. So पछाडि बस्नु हुनेहरु अलिकति अगाडि आइदिनु होला नि. So we have one more presentation by our respected Sanjay Golchaji. Sanjay Golchaji is MD of Neoteric Nepal Private Limited. His presentation title is Demystifying Technological Evolution in his personal journey, my personal journey. So Sanjay ji, so I hope everyone knows Sanjay ji. It is our honor to have you over here, sir. So we look forward to listening to your great presentation.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, good evening, everybody. And first of all, thanks to the organizers for giving me the opportunity to speak. And of course, congratulations for organizing this amazing event, npNOG. Every year I see it, it is becoming better and better.
So big congratulations to the entire npNOG team. So I'm the last speaker of the day, I think. But I've been here since the afternoon, and I've been hearing all the experts, right, in the field of providing connectivity and providing, through, we just heard the panel discussion, right? So my topic is not at all that technical, and I'm not a technical man myself, but I've had a journey in the field of tech for over 40 years now. So I just wanted to share my journey. I'm in the tech business. I am owner of a tech company called npNOG8. So I've been in this for last 25 years in my business. So just wanted to take you through the journey. Maybe you find it interesting. I just wanted to demystify it. We come across a lot of jargons, a lot of new technology, new things, but maybe this will help you to bring things back to perspective. And at the end, of course, I was told by the organizers to give something for the more younger audience here, more ambitious audience here. So I have designed it for them as well. So I hope you like it. So I just wanted to start with my early days in tech. I don't know if anybody has seen this machine, but in 1986, 1984, this is the machine that I started programming in. This was a 4-line scientific calculator that my father had given to me, and this required programming 10, 20, 30, it needed a line code, and we had to program. So this is where I actually started to self-learn how to program in the very basic version of basic programming language, right? And of course, I got the opportunity to work in other computers, early computers of that time, like the Mac IIe, Apple Macintosh, and of course, then we moved on. I downgraded from a GUI-based machine to a prompt-based machine, which was a MS-DOS machine at that time. So started my journey with that. And of course, I was then studying in London. I was involved in tech, and I got the opportunity of working in the first ever versions of what was coming out to be the internet. This is, I'm talking around 1989, So our university, I used to work for the university's computer lab. So I was told, hey, we are getting this thing. We are going to connect to another university in London, and then we are going to get connected to MIT. And there was something which I heard was called a modem. So we had to connect through a modem, through a dial-up connection, So this is what it looked like. It was not the exact machine, but I was pretty sure it was a US robotics machine that time. So of course, it was not internet. It was not called the internet. FTTP and HTTP was not invented by then. We used to work on Telnet. And in Telnet, we used to actually play online chess game with command prompts. So it was amazing for us to work on a chess game with somebody in MIT University across the world, right? I mean, we now take it for granted, but that time it was magic. Of course, then I came back. And so what did I learn, through all of this? I had a lot of experience with computers, with connection, and, and things were evolving at that time as well. That basically all the computers, whatever we are doing are three things. All the devices are basically taking care of compute, storing the data, and connecting, right? And connecting also came a bit later. So when I talk about compute, of course, compute has evolved. It is not only about compute in the sense of a pure central CPU, but different kind of compute. Store, again, is not only about long-term storage or flash storage. They're all different kind of storage. But basically, I am simplifying, so please pardon me for oversimplification. I just want to take you through this journey, right? And of course, there is this very big aspect of interface. So interfacing with the human and its surrounding. It is not necessarily human, but it's surrounding, but mostly humans. How do you interface with that? And then, of course, the algorithms. I mean, the word for algorithms, I mean, I could not find a better word for it. So for lack of word, I put the word algorithm. Earlier days, it was called executable files. Then it was called programs. Then it became packages. Now it's called apps, right? So, this is how it has evolved, but I just put algorithms. And all of this still holds true. And I will take you through my journey and how I connected with what I am demystifying the whole evolution of tech. So I started a company around 25 years ago. I call it Neoteric. And at that time, we used to mix all of this. So we used to buy a separate processor. We used to buy a separate hard disk. We used to buy a separate connectivity thing, keyboard, mouse, interface devices. And we used to assemble computers. If you remember that era where a person would have to go to New Road and get their computer assembled, the white box market. And this is what we used to do. We used to import and supply these things. And there used to be all these kind of input-output devices, processors. You had to buy a motherboard separately. So this is where Neoteric started. But then as we evolved, connectivity also became important. And I don't know how many of you have even seen this. So early days, computers were not connected with IP networks or whatever we have now. It was a token ring networks. And this is how you had to connect. We used to connect in offices that we used to supply to. We had to connect 5 computers, 10 computers with token ring network. And it was a very peculiar thing that if you did not end the token ring with a terminator, the entire network would not work. So I don't know how many of you have seen this, but this is where we grew up, started with our company, and of course that time it became about connectivity. Then came the days of times changed. Nepal got the first GSM, Nepal Telecom, Mero Mobile came with 2G, 2G connection that time. And of course, connectivity took precedence over everything else. So a new kind of computer came, and it was called a mobile phone. And again, my company was involved in bringing the first mobile phones to Nepal. And basically I realized that this is a computer. It had a processor, it had an operating system, which at the time was the highest selling operating system in the world. It was called Symbian. And of course it connected and you could talk with it, and then mobile phones really improved over the period of time. And of course there was this guy called Steve Jobs and changed everything. So before that, so this story I must say is that, mobile phone, when we launched early on, there were people in the government and people there were in the business. They were like, mobile phone is going to be used by people in New Road and Darbar Marg. They never believed that a farmer in the remotest part of Nepal would be using a mobile phone. So there was a lot of discussion happening in the panel, and I was reminiscing this kind of discussion that happened probably at that time. That mobile phone is not for, the masses. It's only for people in Darbar Marg, right? But this changed. And of course, as time changed, a new kind of computer came, right? Thanks to Steve Jobs, which was the smartphone. Again, he acknowledged that it's a computer, right? And he did not talk about the processing or the storage or the connectivity. He focused on the interface. It was a change of the interface, how we talk to the device. It was the complete change in the interface. Of course, mobile, what I've shown the picture here, iPhone did not come to Nepal in a big way, but smartphones, of course, Android smartphones, Chinese smartphones, they became very, very popular in Nepal and changed. Of course, drove the 3G and the 4G, device plays such an important role in adoption, which we were talking again today. It was very interesting to hear that, right? So then came load shedding in Nepal. Before 2015, if you all remember, it was really, really bad. The market moved from assembling computers to laptops, and that is when laptops became very popular. It was not only about the power supply, but also about the portability, about entertainment, because these laptops used to have a CD-ROM. The picture is not correct. This is more of a newer laptop. If you all remember floppy drives and CD-ROMs, it moved to CD-ROMs. So if CD-ROMs, you could buy it for 15 rupees and you could buy a movie, and watch it in your house. So it was a big source of entertainment as well for the family, right? So the driving force was the price. The price of the device. The connectivity and the interface did not matter at that time. What mattered was the processing power and the storage, so that of course became cheaper and cheaper, and that is what drove this. And then Neoteric, of course, today we are also the largest seller of computers in Nepal. And this is reminding us of what happened during the pandemic, that everybody was online, studying online, even in the mountains, even in the most remote parts of Nepal. People were resorting to using devices, of course, and of course we had the internet, which we have spoken about, but it was the devices also that enabled this to happen. And this particular image, I'll talk very interesting thing about this image later. Please do have a look at it. So then came, of course, what you are all brought the magic of fiber to Nepal, because before that, internet truly had not come in. I mean, I have grown up with dial-up, the ADSL, even the point-to-point wireless that came in Nepal, but the magic came after ADSL, after fiber to home, right? And it became ubiquitous all over Nepal. And of course, our company was also involved in the back end, providing the equipments required for fiber, for enabling the fiber to home. And of course, it has changed things in Nepal. A fiber is there, whether it is a small office, a person trying to do a small work, business from their home, SMB, or a student like we saw, fiber to home, fiber to your destination has really made all the change. But again, it was part of the connectivity, right? Of course, even the humble router uses a processor, uses some kind of storage, but connectivity is at the core. But different devices, different avatars that they take, that has been the evolution of tech. Of course, as things evolved, the enterprise side also evolved. Servers went far away into these central places. Where we work was supposed to be only to work. The data would be stored through the connectivity. So came the client server architecture, and we started working on those. And then, of course, you had the interface at the user end with the processing power, but the data was stored at a remote location. And Neoteric, we started selling a lot of servers as well, servers and storage that happened along with it. But then things changed again. Processing also went to the far end, and at the close end, client end was the interface, and we called it the cloud. The cloud, everything needs a name. So basically we called it the cloud. The connectivity was there, the storage, and I'm oversimplifying it, of course. There are a lot of complications to it. We do virtualizations and all of that. But whatever it is, that is what we are doing, is the compute and the storage is sent off to somebody else, and we are doing the interfacing. And we are doing it through data centers, and what is happening, So again, things changed. People said that, no, we don't only want to keep things there. We also want processing, some power of processing at our end. So we started calling it hybrid cloud and different kind of things. And so, I have not shown it here. Processing went into the center part where we started calling it edge computing. So these kind of things have also started happening. Now we are at that era where, different, it's very interesting to see where does the processing happen, where does the storage happen. And of course, if you look at the other side, that even the interfacing is gone into the internet, right? And only the processing is left for the device, like the IoT devices, like for example, drones, doing GIS applications with drones or surveillance activities. These are computers. A camera is able to do AI algorithms on its own, but it's just that it does not have interface on it. The interface is somewhere else, and we are watching it on the phone. If somebody is ringing the bell in your house and it is recognizing whether it is an animal or a human which is there and warning you whether it is a correct warning or not, right? So that is also happening. Of course, we have been hearing about IoTs. The sensors, like Vishal talked about, early warning systems, sensors to detect disasters. So there are many, many other applications to it. So this has been my demystifying, in interest of time, I wanted to go very fast, but I would also want to talk about algorithms. Of course, software has taken, as I said, different avatars over the period of time. There has been different ways, but in a software, of course, most important is the domain. We have to have the domain knowledge. Database, again, the evolution of databases also happened. I have seen it happening from the RDBMSs that came and became and started ruling the world to decentralized databases, which are like the blockchain or the other things. So, so even with databases, we have seen the whole evolution, but maybe for some other day that itself requires a whole thing. But I just wanted to show that, what my software journey has been, that we have been involved in various things in our company, from ERPs to government projects to various other things. So where is the future headed? Again, this is my take. You all are the experts, but my take is that, the compute, store, and connect is going to become less important, and the algorithms and the interfaces are going to become more important over a period of time. In interface, we are already seeing robotics. Now cars are becoming a computer, right? It is about interfacing robotics. How do you interface with the nature, with the environment? AR, VR, we are seeing the AR, VR world happening. Facebook's leap into Meta. Apple has just launched this. They would hate to call it a AR, VR device, but that's what it is. They have just launched it. Algorithms, again, AI, it needs a lot of discussion on that. There's, I think, the biggest thing that is happening on the tech world. And of course, the blockchain worlds. On compute, of course, again, we see a lot of things happening. GPUs, NPUs, APUs happening because driven by the AIs of the world and the different kind of requirements, blockchains, cryptos, but they are all compute. It's just that even in compute, different kind of computes are being transferred from here to there. And of course, we are also talking about quantum computing, which again, more than what my salary level is to talk about. In Connect, of course, we are going to see people from Airtel were talking about the constellation. I think that is going to be a really big game changer. I still want to see what the use cases are going to be for our part of the world, but it's going to be very interesting. And of course, we are eagerly waiting 5G, 6G. Already countries are talking about 6G. We are still, thirsty for 5G. What we are going to do, I don't know. We are still going to watch videos on a small mobile phone, but still, it would be nice to have 5G, right? And Wi-Fi 6 and all of that. So I think this is where I think the current future for Nepal is in terms of going through technology. As I said in the beginning, I just wanted to also, in the request of our organizers as well, Shamit also, that I wanted to give some tips for startups. I don't want to stay between you and dinner for a long time. I will take it quick. For aspiring startup people, this is totally through my personal experience. So please don't hold me to it if you make a mistake, right? So the number one is that you have to know the domain. The domain knowledge is very, very important, whether you are getting into fintech or whether you are getting into rideshare, whether you are getting into e-commerce, whether you are getting into, it could be something that nobody has even imagined, but be the domain expert in that. Second is when you do a business, this is my personal experience, is that you have to think that cash is king, valuation is a myth. People go into negative valuation and 99% of startups die. Cash positive, you have to stay cash positive. And don't overthink technology. I have interacted with a lot of startups in the last many years, and I myself have been involved, and I have been involved in mentoring, involved in bootstrapping and things like that. But what I feel is that people overthink technology. They think that the technology is the answer to everything, whereas technology is only a small part of it. It is important, but a small part of it. For a tech startup, of course. You can have a startup without no tech at all, And don't underestimate marketing. This is something that people land up at the last, that everything is ready, but we don't have customers. So this is something that has to be taken care of. So I think these are the four. Of course, there are a lot of other points. I wanted to just put the top 4 points. And of course, how do startups fail? Running out of cash is number one, I mentioned again earlier. Many technologies, many things that is to be done is ahead of time. You know, there are so many examples. I would even give example of some of the ISPs which have started like long time ago. There are a lot of them are my friends, very close friends like Binay, like, others. I have seen them start, maybe they were at that time ahead of time, but they could manage the cash so they could survive. So that is very, very important. And of course, you have to pivot. You have to know when to pivot. For example, again, with the same analogy with permission from Binay, right? That the ISPs which pivoted from providing dial-up to fiber to home are the ones who are there in this room. The others are not, I think, because that pivot has to happen. So for any startup, that is very, very important. And if you don't have a model that can be scaled up, again, business, that is very, very important. And last but not the least is partnership conflict, which if you even Google, number one reason, there are two youngsters get very excited over a coffee in a coffee shop, make their business plan on a napkin, and then they go, amazing ideas, amazing things, but over a period of time, partner conflicts happen and the company stops working. It would have been an amazing one. And I'm telling you through personal experience. I don't want to obviously be specific about it. I have also suffered through all of this as an entrepreneur. So this is my thing. And the last slide that I want to talk about is AI. I'm no expert in AI, but I have been using it. And I have got three last words on AI. The prompts are back. We used to work on C prompts. Now the prompts are back. So AI, you have to use with prompts. And I had told you about, please do remember those images. So these images that are here, all created by AI. I created them using Mid-Journey AI option, and they are all basis of app. I mentioned create the Nepali scenario. It created the Nepali scenario, a Nepali girl working on a laptop, wearing a headphone in the foothills of the mountains. This is the image that I got. So AI is definitely fantastic. So if you are going to use AI, don't try to reinvent the wheel. This guy here is trying to reinvent the wheel. Again, this image is created by AI. I wanted the AI to create that, a more relatable image to us of a guy, a young guy trying to reinvent the wheel. When I say reinvent the wheel, whatever little experience I have with AI, you can just plug in and start using it. I know so many people who have made some amazing applications based on AI. We can't create AI. We can't reinvent the wheel. The big guys in Microsoft and Google are doing it. OpenAI is doing it. We should stay out of it, take advantage of it, monetize it. That's my last word on AI. And with that, I would like to thank you all. Thank you. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay sir. Hello. Thank you, Sanjay sir, for your enlightening keynote presentation on demystifying technological evolution. So I'm sure most of us has gone through our memory days in the past, and then we went along with the Sanjay Sarko presentation in like how we all are evolving and we are looking at the future and what's coming next. So I think it's really enlightening presentation, Sanjay sir. Thank you very much for that. And I also was remembering those days. I have my friend Sanjeev Dev over here. Probably he's here somewhere. Okay. So we were among the first telecom engineer batch when the mobile was Nepal Telecom was implementing mobile services. And in the first batch, I think there was an order the tender was won by an Israeli company called Telrad, if I'm not wrong. And the first batch of delivery was supposed to be 15,000 sets, right, Sanjeev? So, and then at that time, the deposit was around 50,000 and the cost of incoming call was 6 rupees per minute, and the outgoing was 6 rupees. So our director at that time tasked us asking us, Sanjeev and myself, to see how these 15,000 15,000 mobile sets can be distributed. And we worked through like a couple of days, like how many mobile sets will be bought by royal families, how many ministries are there, कतिवटा ministry ले कतिवटा लेला, गोल्छाहरूले कतिवटा लेला, अनि चौधरीहरूले कतिवटा लेला, but that still did not add of more than 6,000 or 7,000, right, Sanjeev? So there was a scenario when like 15,000 was a too big a number at that time. है 6-7,000 भन्दा बढी त काउन्टै गर्न दिन सकिएन. So, and then after 15,000, there was another batch that was committed. So those were the days when we were like, I was remembering those days, Sanjay sir, when you were talking about that. Thank you very much. So next, I would like to request Dipesh sir, Dipesh Acharya sir, Director of Nepal Telecom Authority, to probably come up on the dais and maybe we were closing, or should we do a present this thing, certificate distribution? Okay, so Dipesh sir, if you can give your closing remark.
Thank you very much, Rupesi. Good evening, everyone. I am pretty much happy to see this gathering at this time in the evening. It's already 7:30 p.m. and the hall is still packed. It was really wonderful to see this thing. So first of all, I would like to thank this organizing committee for inviting and associating NTA in this event. Though today there were two events happening at the same time, Digital Nepal Conclave and this one, I was pretty late joining on this thing, but the last session I joined and it was quite vibrant. And I believe whole day the session was so vibrant and people were still cheerful. So regarding the last session's few queries, I need to address, I think Vinay is laughing there. I need to address few issues raised by NCL, CZ, and Vinay himself, okay? The first thing we are facing right now is the legislation that we are working on it. It's been more than 20 years that Telecommunication Act has been established and NTA has been established, and we are still working on the same legislation. We have been trying to amend this thing way back in 2006, but we are still in the process. But having said that, even though we could not amend the Telecommunication Act, we have amended lots of other legislation that we can amend by ourselves. For example, the competition in the frequency assignments, that legislation we drafted by ourselves, we enacted by ourselves, and we just go with the legislation we had drafted. The other thing is like for ISPs to do the optical fiber network and for the disbursement of RTTF, all these things are not in the Telecoms Act, but still we move ahead with these things. So what I want to ensure all of you that regulatory is working to enhance the telecommunication infrastructure, to develop the telecommunication infrastructure so that people can get the service at the affordable price and the service will be more competent. At this point of time, we have only 2 mobile operators and many of the ISPs, and we have already drafted this merger and acquisition policies that has already been forwarded to the government, and sooner or later we will have these things done. And please be optimistic, and I want to assure you that all these things will be sorted out in the near future. So don't get frustrated with the situation, because we need to bear with all these things. Finally, I would like to thank this organizing committee for organizing this special event. I believe they are organizing this thing every 6 months. I request them to take this event outside Kathmandu to the province level, at least to all the provinces, so that people of the other provinces can get an opportunity to know how about the network, know how about the technology, know how about the developments and the regulatory aspects. I would like to request the organizing committee to look after it. I, as a regulator, as an NTA, would like to assure you that we will be there with you if you wish to go outside Kathmandu organizing similar type of things. Finally, I would like to thank everybody, and evening of the weekend. I wish you all enjoy the dinner. Thank you very much.
Before we have a vote of thanks from Kizus Maharjan, I would like to request Dipesh sir one more time in the stage. Samit, if you can also come up on the stage. We'll have the token distribution for all the speakers. Who else? Okay. So let me call some of the speakers. Let me call the names, and if you can come up and collect this token on Chimi Dorji from APNIC. Bijay Limbu. I'll keep on calling the names so that it's faster. Bijay Limbu. Oh, he's already left. Okay. We'll give it to him later. Himali Bhatta. Dr. Saligram Parazuli. Dr. Saligram Parazuli. Himali Bhatta. Binay Bora. Amitesh Roy and Adil. Mr. Bharat. Dr. Pradeep Paudel. Vishal from Nokia. This one? I mean, this will be a. Go. Adil go. Adil. Speaker circle. Next up, okay. Mr. Sanjay Golsa, sir. Next, we'll distribute the sponsors to this thing, trophies. Is this sponsors trophies? Sponsors trophies. Sponsors the I'll just randomly call all the names, not in any kind of a order. Just give it randomly so that we save some time. Okay, wave surfer, we're just calling it randomly without any precedence. Wave surfer. Thank you very much to all the sponsors and supporters. Lightstorm. I'll just call all the names. Extreme. PCH. PCH, Chatur. Whirling. Ravindra. There's nobody from Lightstorm now? Dickix. I think Sudhir was here. Whirling. Tekpana? Anybody from Tekpana? And then we have Vionet. Tekpana, all this. Vionet. Workalaya. Workalaya. Subisu. Workalaya. Dishom. Dishom. Yeah, these are ads. Oh, these are now. These are now. Home networks. Home networks. Your last one. Huh? Look. Maverian. Indivar. Supported by Garon. The caller said. Caller services. I think I'll take this one. Now, supported by my first one, Nepal Telecom Authority. Enren, Razanji, Lochun sir, ko hununcha? Nirazan. iSpan. iSpan. Sudhirji hununcha la. CAN Federation. Anybody from CAN Federation? Bikram lidin hogi CAN Federation ko bhani? Sudhir. CAN Federation. Fine. Bikram lai. Vikram त्यहाँ सम्झाओस् अनि फेरि बोलाउनु Nepal Internet Foundation. Thank you, Divesh sir. Thank you, Swami sir. Before we close this, I think thank you very much for attending this npNOG8. We are at the end of npNOG8. As a बिहान देखिको एकदमै सेसन्सहरु रमाइलो भयो. I hope you all guys enjoyed all the presentations. धेरै कुराहरु सिक्न पनि पायो, धेरै interesting presentations हरु पनि भयो. कति कुराहरु पनि बाहिर धेरै interesting कुराहरु पनि भयो. I would like, before I end, I would like to request you to attend the dinner outside, cocktail dinner outside. But before we end, I would like to request Kijus Maharzan, Secretary of npNOG, to deliver his vote of thanks. Kijus, thank you very much.
Namaste. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and esteemed participants. As we bring the curtain down on another successful chapter of the npNOG, it is with great pleasure and a sense of accomplishment that we conclude the 8th edition of this remarkable event. These past few days have been filled with knowledge sharing, remarkable event, and collaboration, making npNOG8 a resounding success. First and foremost, we would like to express our deepest gratitude to all the attendees who joined us from near and far, both in person and virtually. Your active participation and engagement have contributed to the vibrant and enriching atmosphere that defined this event. Together, we have fostered an environment where ideas were exchanged, challenges were discussed, and solutions were sought. We extend our heartfelt appreciation to the esteemed speakers, panelists, and trainers who graciously shared their expertise and experience. Your invaluable insight and thought-provoking session have undoubtedly enhanced our understanding of cutting-edge technologies, network operations, and network security. Your contribution have undoubtedly played a crucial role in the continuous growth and development of our community. Furthermore, we would like to express our sincere thanks to our generous sponsors and partners who have supported npNOG8. Your unwavering commitment to our cause has enabled us to deliver a top-tier event, providing a platform for learning, collaboration, and innovation. We are immensely grateful for your continued support and trust in our mission. Lastly, we must acknowledge the dedicated effort of the organizing committee, advisors, volunteers, our event manager work, and the whole npNOG community. Your unwavering dedication, countless hours of hard work, and passion for driving positive change in the networking industry have made npNOG an extraordinary event. It is through your collective efforts that we have built a vibrant and inclusive community, fostering professional growth and knowledge sharing among network operators in Nepal and beyond. As we reflect on the insightful discussions and valuable connections made during npNOG8, we are confident that the impact of this event will continue to resonate within our community. Let us carry the torch of collaboration and learning forward, using the knowledge gained to navigate the evolving landscape of networking and technology. On behalf of the entire npNOG team, we thank you once again for your active participation and support. We look forward to welcoming you all at future events as we continue to explore new horizons, break barriers, and shape the future of networking together. Thank you and farewell until we meet again.
Thank you, Kijus. Just a small pending item that was left is very important one. Blame me for forgetting this thing, but it's very important one. We will be distributing these tokens, trophies to the instructors. Your conference, as a conference, हुनुभन्दा 5 दिनको लागि हाम्रो workshop थियो. The workshop मा चाहिँ we had instructors who were giving out the training. So we have some trophies to give out to the instructors. Please bear with us for 5 more minutes. Thank you. First up, I'd like to request Warren Finch to come to the stage. Warren, are you there? I'll keep on calling all the names, so I hope Samit will remember them. So then Imtiaz, Swapnil Patnekar, Suhasini, yeah. Suhasini. She was there. Swapnil. Rupesh Kumar Thapa, where is he? Rupesh. Divya Khatewala. Rupesh Basnet. सबै रुपेशले पाए म एकजनाले पाएन त प्रतीक रेग्मी हरिकृष्ण भण्डारी प्रतीक नेक्स्ट मिलन गेवाली हरिकृष्ण मिलन गेवाली कमलेश यादव यहीं चल विकास श्रेष्ठ Indra Raj Basnet. I thought Subhashini was here. Yeah, we'll take a group photo and then we have some volunteer tokens too. Okay. Yeah, that one. Oh. We'd also like to give some tokens to our volunteers. Kijus, can you give the names and Susant? Dhruv and China. Vikas Maharzan. In China. China. So for those who are not here, we'll hand it over later. So thank you very much, everyone. Samit, you want to say something or we'll go for dinner? Okay, let's go for dinner. Thank you everyone for your attention and thank you. And the npNOG8 was hugely successful with all your participation. Thank you very much. We'll meet over there for a cocktail dinner. Thank you.